And welcome to another podcast of the Saints Martini with the Saint and the Halo. And of course, the Halo is always held up with horns. How are you today?
I am good, Warren. Thank you. How are you?
I'm I've had a bit of a week, I'll tell you that. But I'm doing well today. So
Yeah, well, that's good.
I'm doing very well. I'm sitting back. I have a cocktail ready for conversation, and I'm all set after what's been an interesting week in the world. I have to admit, a lot of stuff been going down. You know, we live in interesting
Yeah.
times, as the curse.
Interesting with air quotes.
Yes. Yeah. What isn't it that the famous Chinese curse? May you live in interesting times.
Oh God, it
Um,
probably is.
yeah, and
I only remember the Irish curse of "May you always have wet socks." So,
oh, I haven't heard that one before. Wet
yeah. Well,
socks.
can you imagine anything worse than
It'd,
constantly
it'd be
having wet
it'd
socks?
be pretty bad. I have to admit, it would be pretty bad. And look, nothing too. Just before we start, I should say to everyone, if the sound quality is not quite as good as it normally is, that will be fixed in the next podcast. There's been some upgrade to some hardware, and it hasn't fully been implemented. So we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants. So I do apologise for that. But anyone who sort of says, "Oh, what happened to
And
the sound? It's down a little bit."
yeah, let's blame you for that, and not the extra hour I made you wait because my computer wouldn't load.
No, I did blow my computer up last week. It's kind of the reason why we didn't have a show last weekend. Actually, was because
So,
I blew
yeah.
my computer up. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I would have been the person I thought that would be more likely to spill wine on my computer, but
yeah, look, these things happen. You know, life happens.
oh,
You know,
believe
so
me, I
um,
get it.
But but anyway, but there's some interesting. I wanted to get sort of your opinion on this actually, because we're going to have to talk about the Triple F at some stage, I'm sure.
Ugh.
The fat fascist fuck.
In his death rally in Tulsa right
The
now.
death rally. I believe there's a hashtag going around Twitter which is called COVIDiot,
Oh well,
which
yeah.
refers to anyone who actually goes. But anyway, but no, but this is not actually about the giant walking tub of orange lard. This is actually, although did you see him at West Point walk down not the stairs, but yeah, down the stairs? The man could barely stand up. What is going?
Well, there was no railing, and it had been raining, according to Kayleigh McEnany, who is the press secretary now,
Even though,
and just another like lie machine. But yeah, I feel like it's maybe a couple of things. One, he's obesely, like grossly overweight, and he wears lifts in his shoes, so he's tilted forward. Plus, one of the signs they say of early onset dementia, and I'm not sure how early it is at this point, because stress can increase it, but it's a symptom his dad had when he got it as well, where you kind of lean forward a bit because you're a little off balance. So to compensate, you lean forward all the time. So as a combination of those things, I think, yeah, it would have been scary as shit for him to walk down that thing.
well, yeah, because I remember hearing a stand-up comic. Well, I don't call him stand-up comic. We'll just call him a comic. Who played President Trump in that? Was it the President Show? I think it was. Was it an HBO show? Where he and Mike Pence
Oh,
used to do a late-night talk show, and they would have guests. He'd sit behind the desk, and Mike Pence would be his sidekick. Was it called The
oh,
President's Show or
wait, I don't know which one that is. It animated or
no,
was
no,
that
no,
live
no,
action?
no,
You said it was an
live action.
actor. So
Yeah,
wait.
yeah, live action. It's
Um,
very good. And
yeah, I actually don't know that show.
oh,
So that's
yeah,
weird.
it's actually it goes back to the first year of his presidency, I think. And every week he would have a guest on, and it would be, like the Mooch, and he would come in, hey, President, baby, hey, and all this
So
sort of
it's
stuff.
basically just an
Um,
SNL skit, Saturday Night Live skit.
it kind of was for half an hour, but they ran it like a
Yeah.
game show, and they would have like spin the wheel to win a prize, and they would do it
Oh,
was it was quite literally run like a late night show, but the president was the host, and Mike Pence was like the band leader.
oh my God.
Yeah,
As if Mike Pence is allowed to listen to music.
oh god, I know. It was a very good show. But anyway, I saw him interviewed at a Comic Con. I think it was a Comic Con. And I wasn't there. I saw the video footage on YouTube. And he was talking about the president, and he said Trump can't walk downhill. Like, he can only walk on flat areas. He can't go uphill because he's still
Yeah.
unfit, and he can't go downhill because he started going into this weird mindset about how he was terrified of the blackness beyond. I can't do it justice. It's hilarious to hear him talk. But this was in the first year of his presidency. He was, I think, the only person talking about the fact that Trump couldn't walk downhill. Like, he can't physically walk downhill. And I reckon,
I'm telling you, it's the lifts and the shoes.
I reckon it's the
telling
shoes.
you.
I reckon the problem is the heels are too high. He can't, and because unlike women who were taught from early age how to walk in high heels, he doesn't know how to walk in these damn things, and he's leaning so far forward all the time.
Yes. Well, he does. I think he wears the lifts honestly because he feels like he's short. So he claims he's 6'3". We have pictures of him standing next to Obama, who was like, I can't remember exactly, but they were Obama was slightly taller than him, or they were right at the same point. Now, it's been a while since I've seen the picture, but it's like very obviously he's lying about his height, and in the same way that he lies about his weight, because he thinks taller makes him more, dashing or whatever, more manly, which is really freaking stupid.
Well, the thing about him, the way he carries on, and all of his supporters and his spokespeople talk about him like he's a Greek Adonis, right?
Well,
And it's like, seriously, this man has never exercised a day. Well, maybe when he was in college or school, but since then has never exercised a day. And it's like, it blows my mind. It's like, who was that doctor from the White House who came out a couple of years ago and quite literally on stage was saying, this man is such a hunk, I want to have sex with him. Do you remember that doctor? He was a Navy doctor or something, and he was like the White House physician. And he literally came out and said, "The president, the president is so hot. I want to have his babies. I want to have sex with him. Take me, president. Take me, Trump. Take me now." It was so horrible to watch.
Well, yeah, there's some really like freakily weird cult members, and people were talking about today, and I can't remember who said it. I remember what the response was, though, that made me think of this, is that someone was saying that, oh man, you know what? I totally forgot what I was going to say.
That's all right. But look, what I was leading to is we were going to talk about the Triple S a little bit later. But
yeah,
because there was some. That's all right. It happens to me all the time. It's like, I just wanted to let you know about. Oh,
yeah.
crap. Yeah.
I told you. I kept drinking wine while we were like waiting for my computer to reboot. So yeah.
No, that's all right. We'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. But in news today, China has been on the attack. It looks as if the Australian government was hit by a government-sponsored cyber terrorist attack on the actual federal Australian government and large Australian corporations. Apparently the ASIO the Commonwealth Signals Directorate has come out and said, yes, it was a government-sponsored attack. They haven't technically said which country it is, but I think we all know who it is.
Right. Yeah.
And because Australia and China are not getting along fantastically well at the moment. So yeah, interesting stuff. And then in the same week, news broke that apparently Chinese companies in Britain have been told post Brexit to toe the party line and
Mm.
to act as assets of the Chinese government. It's interesting times,
Yeah, that's pretty scary. You
you
know,
know.
we've got so many countries right now that are really daring with their cyber attacks. And, we know for sure already that Russia has the ability to just shut down our power grid.
Yeah.
So, the cyber
Yes.
attack thing is super scary. You just never know what somebody like that's going to do, when they have ulterior motives. I'm sure we have ulterior motives as we do things all over the world too, because let's be honest, we like to wear a halo here, but it's definitely held up by horns. Like there's, we project the halo, but everybody knows the difference. What was it Shakespeare said that even the devil can cite scripture for his purpose?
Mm. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's I do remember many years ago there was an Australian Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, got all hot and bothered because it turned out that the NSA had been listening in on Australian business calls, which was not exactly,
Hmm.
we're meant to be your friend and you're listening in on our commercial traffic, which the argument of the Australian government at the time was, well, you can take that information and give it to your companies. That's your government. Do you know what I mean? You're using your
Yeah.
military to help in multinational contracts, and we weren't very
Yeah.
happy about that. And anyway, so the story is all it went away, and the Australian government still continued that it wasn't very happy until news broke a few months later that we had been tapping the entire cabinet of the Indonesian government. We had been listening to everything. We tapped all their phones, right?
Well,
Okay, all the
yeah. I
mobile
mean, yeah.
and
It's not like not everybody's not doing it. That's all I'm
yeah,
saying.
and it was a little bit like Prime Minister, you weren't very happy with that, but we've been doing it, and it was a bit like, oops, oh yeah, oops, we got
Yeah.
caught out there. So yes, you're
That
so right.
hypocrisy stings a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we all do. I mean, we all do it, but the problem is
We
when
do.
it's done by someone who's rather extremely economically and militarily powerful, it gets a little bit scary, you know?
Oh, I agree. Yeah. Someone like China and Russia and yeah, I mean, there's for sure. Those are the countries that will definitely go to war if they have to.
Although
you know?
although Russia's got no military. I mean, it's
Right now, no, but I
you know,
promise you they'd have something, and I feel like they just already have nukes. They know that. So I don't know. I don't think they're going
yeah,
to necessarily launch them against us, but I do feel like with who we have in the White House right now, we don't really know what's going to happen. It's kind of crazy with everything with North Korea and China and Russia and, a lot of
yeah.
Turkey, Iran. It's actually kind of crazy right now. Even more,
Yeah.
even just not on our own soil.
Yes, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting times though. It's although it did lead on after all this hacking, because when this hacking got announced in Parliament, um,
Hmm.
there was there were a lot of people who sort of said distraction, distraction. The government must be distracting from something. So what else is going on? And it went back then to a story where it turns out that our Prime Minister had been lying on his CV. Okay. And apparently it turns out that when he used to run this huge government department back in 15 years ago or something like that, okay,
Hmm.
it was announced at the time that he left due to directional differences, and he left.
Right.
It turns out that apparently he was sacked for being corrupt, but it was never announced.
Okay.
And the
Huh.
story has come out now, and there were a lot of cynics who are around sort of saying, "Oh, the cyber attacks are all it's cloak and dagger. It's watch what the left hand's doing so you don't see what the right hand's doing. But apparently the security forces have come out and actually said that no, Australia really was attacked. But the the interesting thing about this is that it then led to a Twitter like what do you call it, trend, which was,
Mm-hmm.
is Australia going to get a new prime minister next week? Because he's on the news. But it seems that the answer to that is no. There's not going to be a spill. It seems he is quite safe, and there's oh my god, the man who wants his job is a gentleman called Peter Dutton, and he's the Home Affairs Minister. He's Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Evil, or Dr. Evil, as he's
Ooh.
often, because he's the one who wants to stop all those, dirty.
Is he also hilarious?
Oh, he talks. He wants to stop the immigrants coming in. They're dirty. Oh, I don't want to see them. But anyway, he looks very much like. Now, there's a very famous German director who made the movie Nosferatu in the 1920s.
Yes. Yes.
Peter Dutton is the spitting image of the 1920s Nosferatu. The only difference is Peter Dutton's ears are not quite as pointy, but it's pretty close. Then a spitting image of that, and just pop on Google and look up Peter Dutton, and
Holy
then look up Nosferatu. Right? And there is a show on Australian TV, which is called what's it called? Mad as Hell, with an Australian comic called Sean McCullough. It's very much like the Daily Show, or what was it, This Week Tonight, or something like that.
Okay.
And in a very Australian style, like, because it's lunacy, right? It's not nothing they talk about. It's total lunacy. And anyway, whenever they talk about Peter Dutton, they always put up a photograph of Nosferatu. So yeah. Anyway. Oh dear. So that was news from Australia anyway this week. That's good. But I did hear that apparently even our Prime Minister was sprung for being a little bit corrupt 20 years ago or something like that.
A little bit corrupt.
Yeah, a little bit corrupt. Jobs for the boys, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Like I can say anything about a corrupt government over here right now.
Yes. But it does bring up the point that your government was sprung using Nazi symbols in campaign advertising.
Oh, God. Well, that's Stephen Miller's doing, right? I'm just going to say that to you right now. Trump has no fucking clue what anybody's doing in regards to that stuff.
Yeah.
But when they put those things out, those are dog whistles. And yeah, I'm glad it got shut down. That's a bunch of shit. Combined especially with the text about how, leftist mobs in capital letters were terrorizing cities and burning them. And, just seriously stochastic terrorism, like on its most basic fucking level when you do shit like that. They're calling out literal white supremacists and white nationalists here to go out and fight back against people who are literally peacefully protesting against legitimate issues with our police force and people being held accountable in law. And it's really gross. It's gross. But, there's honestly, I don't know anything that they're going to be able to do about it until we can get all these fuckers out of office. But, Stephen Miller is an advisor. He is back there really pushing some shitty buttons.
But this is the thing about, I once heard that if Trump hadn't have been elected, let's say Ted Cruz had have been president. Let's say,
oh God, I just threw up a little in my mouth.
I know he is. There is something very.
He's a dominionist. He's a dominionist, and he got into a flame war on Twitter with Hellboy. What's wrong with him?
But he's. I don't know.
Perlman made him look like the chump he is.
I did hear about that. It's like, come on, guy, let's wrestle.
Oh, you should look at the thread. It's the most ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. But let's just for argument's sake, it was him, or let's say it was who's the other Bush who wanted to have a go.
Oh my God, I would beg to have Jeb Bush in office right now compared to this guy.
Or Marco Rubio.
Oh, fuck him.
No,
I'm sorry.
I know you don't like these people. I know you don't like these people.
He's one of my senators, and he is the most worthless piece of shit out there besides maybe Matt Gaetz.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Now, I know you don't like these men. All right, I know that. All right,
I do not.
I'm not fans of them either. But
yeah.
What I'm trying to say is, imagine we live in an alternate reality where they had won the nomination and they had won, for argument's sake, right?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is, Steve Miller would not have been hired by those presidencies.
No.
Right? Like, the only reason Stephen Miller is in the White House is because it's Trump. Right? Any other Republican, even if you hate them, even if you think they're horrible people, would not have hired Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller could never have been hired seriously in the Republican Party unless it was like working with a small-time governor or something like that. He was never going to get into that higher end. It's purely because of Trump. Am I wrong, right or wrong, Ed, do you reckon?
I agreed with the yes, so I'm going to say you're right.
And so that's the thing that even if Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz are pieces of shit, you wouldn't have had them pushing Nazi symbols in advertising campaigns. Is what I'm trying to say.
No, I agree with that on that level for sure. There's a lot of people right now that have been connected to Trump and that are currently in office and in places of power and in positions that he put them in that have no fucking business being where they are. They are horrible people that he's just giving gifts to, basically because they support him.
Yes.
And, it's political favors because everything is transactional with him, every single thing. So if he's not getting something from you, he's not giving you anything. So why, if he's giving people things, look at all the people he's giving things. All these positions and these crazy ass ideas, he's putting people in place. They're destroying our entire system of justice here. They fired or they're trying to fire the general attorney for the SDNY, which is like the biggest supposedly independent body of lawyers and I'm having one of those days. But you know what I'm saying? He fired him. It was basically like a Friday Night Massacre, the stuff that happened with Nixon way back in the day. And firing people because they were actually doing investigations into Deutsche Bank and things like that. So it's they're tearing down our ability to stop them from doing things too. And that's what's killing me right now. In Kentucky, the primaries that are coming up on Tuesday, they literally have gone from I can't remember the exact number. I'm going to just say like 2,300, even if it's only 1,300, but I think it was more like 2,300 polling places to go and vote, down to 200 in the entire state. And in one county where 50% of the county are African Americans, they are down to one single polling place. There's one place for people to go and vote.
For how many people?
It's probably about 161,000 people in that particular county.
How long do they have to vote? Does that have to be done in one day or?
Oh, absolutely it does. Between when the polls open, probably maybe at 7 or 8 a.m. I can't remember.
So they've got to process 100,000 people in one polling station in one day. Now, I have to say, how many...
No, they're not. They're not. They're not going to do that. It's going to be a nightmare, just like what happened in Georgia, as they're trying to suppress the vote. Because the only time the Republicans win is when they keep people from voting. When people vote, Democrats win. So they do everything they can to suppress the vote here. And they have people in charge in their states individually of how many polling places there are and making sure the elections run smoothly. But they're intentionally cutting down polling places to make sure, especially people who might vote Democrat, are not going to be able to vote. And it's going to be a nightmare.
You all I can suggest to you guys is, and I don't know how you do it, but you've got to take politicians out of electoral stuff. In other words,
I agree.
you've got to let the public service run it, the
Yeah,
professional public service, not those people who are appointees. No, the lifers, the ones who join the public service at 18 and retire at 80.
I
Those
agree
men
with
and
you.
women who are lifetime public servants, they've got to run it. It's what happens, honestly, in most other countries. Um,
Yeah, well,
well,
things are weird here now because we don't have actual Republicans anymore. I mean, honestly,
you've got
people call themselves
Trumpists.
Republicans. We have Trumpublicans. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like a weird cult. And then there's, people from the GOP who have said we can't support him, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily going to support a Democrat. We have our independents that you never know where they're going to vote. I mean, it's terrifying because they're saying the polls here for Joe Biden right now that he's up like 12 points nationally in all the polls, including like the most conservative ones. But the problem with that is they said the same thing about Hillary. And we can't trust these people not to cheat because they will.
But didn't Hillary make a couple of mistakes? She didn't go to Michigan. She didn't go to some of those Rust Belt areas that maybe if she did, all she had to do was turn 3,000 votes or 5,000 votes in certain states to have.
Yeah. I'm just going to say to you that the election results in specific counties in those areas, where Trump was able to win the Electoral College here by only like 70,000 votes, gave him the point across 3 states. Now, if you actually go back and look, and I think Mike Farb, who's on Twitter, at Mike Farb 1 or something, he did a really good kind of in-depth dive into the actual numbers. And a lot of, there were counties where the numbers were really skewed, where all of a sudden everybody that came in was voting for Trump all of a sudden. And it was the weirdest thing because you could watch the graphs on it, then they were definitely not lining up. And I don't have all the, right now in my memory.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but they actually probably, because you don't have to hack into like every voting machine in our country, even though it's super easy to do in like 30 seconds. They've had kids at conventions have the voting machines. They've broken in like 30 minutes, like 30 seconds. I'm sorry, not 30 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like 30 seconds. And so the thing is, though, you don't actually have to hack all the voting machines. You only have to hack the tabulation machines, which there's like one in every state. So, that's the thing. You only have to hack the tabulation machines, change a few votes here. And we already know Russia did that during the elections in 2016. They didn't tell us initially that it was everywhere. They said initially, well, we heard they tried to get in, but they couldn't. And then a little bit later they released, well, they got into a couple of states, and then they wouldn't tell us what states. And then they're like, okay, well, they got into Florida and, and then it gave us a couple names, but then it turned out that, okay, well, they did actually break into every state. But they didn't change anything. They didn't change anything is what they kept saying. And it's like, you know what? You're full of shit. So they absolutely changed stuff.
So how is there an estimation then of how many votes were turned rigged? I hate using the term rigged because that's what the Triple F.
Well, I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
manipulated votes.
Yes, manipulate it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll use a PC term, I guess. No, I mean. Rigged is so like volatile these days for sure. But yeah, I think it's kind of the same thing. I just, it is rigged in a sense in this regard. Remind me of the question you just asked me because I started talking.
Oh, no. I
digressed and then you know how my mind is right now.
Is there an estimation? Because we know Hillary got, okay, according to the records, now whether the records are accurate or not, but according to the records, we know that Hillary got around 3 million more votes than Donald Trump.
In the popular vote.
Yes. But when we moved into the world of the Electoral College, Um,
Hmm.
and also the other thing too, I know a lot of people are against the electoral college, but every country has their own form of it. Like we have in Australia, we have what we
Yeah.
call seats. Okay, it's the same thing, you know. So every country has the same sort of thing. But
Yeah, I have
okay,
words about that.
yeah, so do I. Sometimes I do think it should just be the highest number of votes takes the prime
Yeah.
ministership,
I
rather
think it made
than
sense. The electoral college might have made sense when we were all spread out
yeah.
and it was harder to get information here and there. But I just think now in a time where we are so connected that there's no reason why that one guy in Montana's vote should count like for 10 people's worth of votes on for someone in California.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense. So it's not about the land mass, it should be one person, one vote now,
It's
in my
yeah,
opinion.
no, look, I agree, and I would actually like to see it in Australia. The problem with it in Australia is we'd have to have
You guys
second.
are so far separated.
Well, the problem is we'd need to have yeah, but we need to have a secondary election because the problem would be that at the moment, see, there's a lot of people don't realise the prime minister is not elected by the people in Australia.
Yeah.
A lot of people, especially Americans, don't realise that the Australian prime minister is elected by the members of parliament, right? Not by
Right.
the
By the ruling party, basically,
yeah. So in other words, whoever gets the most votes puts
majority
their
party.
guy or girl. Because we have had one,
Okay.
at least. Thank God we've had one girl take the prime ministership, right?
Okay.
And yeah, she's kind of hot. Too bad. Yeah.
Behave yourself.
Sorry, I can't
Don't
help it.
don't objectify her. And you called her a
Oh,
girl, and she was probably a woman. So I'm just going to
oh,
put that
sorry.
out there because
Sorry. Yes, yeah,
you
you're right.
know.
You're right. No, you're right. Warren, naughty, naughty. Naughty Warren,
Yes, bad, bad
bad Warren,
Warren.
bad Warren. I know. She was actually, to be honest with you, forget about that. She was actually my favourite prime minister of all time. Actually,
Yeah.
much to my friend's absolute, I cannot stand the fact she was not the most popular prime minister by any shot. I really liked her. I thought she was great. I loved the fact that we had an unmarried woman who was a
Hmm.
redhead and an atheist, and she was prime minister. I thought, how is Aussie is that? You know what I mean? I just thought,
That's amazing, actually.
would you get that in America? Would you get an unmarried woman who is a redhead? And I'm only using the redhead as a joke. You know what I mean? And
Well, they say gingers have no
yeah,
soul,
yeah,
so yeah.
yeah, and
That's a joke. My
and
mother's a
also,
redhead, so I want to say that,
and
and so I know it's true.
yes, and also an atheist. so, but
Yeah,
uh,
that's not going to happen here.
yeah, but
Not
and
yet.
now I've forgotten what the hell I was talking about now because I'm just remembering. There's a very
About the
famous.
electoral
Well,
college.
there's
It
a
was
very
how
famous.
many votes, maybe?
Oh yeah, I was going to say there is a very famous bit of footage of Julia Gillard, the Australian Prime Minister at the time, in I can't remember where she was, and she was in Europe, and the Italian Prime Minister was there, and as she walked past, the Italian Prime Minister's eyes, you can literally see his eyes following her ass all the way down as she walks. It's absolutely, I suppose, hilarious but appalling, if you get what I'm trying to say, at the same time.
Well, look, people might
Um,
be, they might be in positions of power, but they're not dead. Look, I
oh,
get
yeah, I know.
that. Okay.
Um,
Looking isn't a big thing, but
yeah,
don't leer.
yeah.
you know,
Anyway, what the hell are we
it's
talking about? You
the
just
quick
reminded me
glance
of.
is fine.
I know. Yes, we talked about that, wasn't it? What is it? Uh, uh, to what is it? To not look would be rude. To stare is inappropriate.
That's true.
I think
I
that's.
also don't recommend. I also don't recommend touching a woman on
No,
her ass when you
no.
don't know her.
No. I think that stuff went out
No, it's
in.
happened to me.
Oh God, that's yeah, yeah, yeah. That's yeah. Ooh, that's yeah.
Yeah. I've had
Yeah.
some issues.
Yes.
But I'm not one of those girls actually who can't handle that shit. So I just do.
Now, sorry, I just had a actually, what we might just do is we're just going to take a quick break, if that's all right, and we
Uh-oh.
are going to be no, all is cool, and we will be right back.
Okay.
And we are back. Sorry about that. I just had a little bit of an issue at my end. We are back, and because we were talking about, the differences with the way people vote, and I don't even really remember, because for everybody listening, that's been 3 seconds. For us, it's been about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll
And
probably
we've had
move.
a long conversation
I know.
about
So we'll
Michael
probably,
Bay.
yeah, the ass wipe that is Michael Bay.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's I don't know. It's like you do wonder. It's a little bit like, if you believe in Christianity, right? And there is a concept that you go up where you go down when you die. Depending on
Mm.
how you've been, right? But
Yeah.
I actually think that if you go down, right, and you've been a bad person, I think you are confronted at the fiery gates by Michael Bay. I think, it's like, welcome, in Michael Bay's there, welcome to my world.
Yeah.
I think that's what hell is, a Michael Bay film. I mean, really, think about it. I mean,
Well,
that is
as I
hell, you know?
I worked on one, and I'm going to just guarantee you that that's correct.
Yes, I know. I will. We have mentioned on another podcast actually about Armageddon.
Yeah.
I think everyone knows that Michael Bay's an arsehole. All right, it's just
Yeah,
we all know
yeah.
that. We all know that.
Concerning the things that happened to me over the 5-day course of working on that movie, I swear to God, I would never sign up for that shit again.
Yeah, but let's face it. He only makes movies so he can have sets with underage women. That's why he does it. Well,
I
maybe
have
not.
no
Maybe okay.
idea what's right in his
Okay,
job.
maybe not underage. Maybe not underage. But what I should say, did you have any of your 18-year-old hot-looking female extras hit on by Michael Bay?
I don't know because I had 500 people a day for
Oh, there's
5 days in a
okay,
row.
right. So
I have
you
no
you were
idea.
you were probably a little
No,
bit
I had,
busy. But
yeah,
I swear he at least tried to have sets with at least a few of them.
that may be true.
Yeah.
I don't know. And
Um,
if he's hit the gates of hell, I'm ready for him. I've already put my finger in his face and yelled at him for touching other people, and I'm not afraid to do it again. And to be honest with you, I've already been to hell, and I had too much fun, and they threw me out.
That's like that classic scene where in The Simpsons when Homer actually goes to hell and he's complaining about going to hell, and suddenly and out
They're
of one of
feeding him all the
the
donuts.
and then out of one of the doors comes John Wayne holding a cup of coffee, going, "Keep the racket down. Some of us are trying to sleep." Oh, I always thought that was hilarious. Oh dear. Anyway, but one thing we were talking
I feel
about.
like you have some deep hatred of John Wayne. So the
No,
man died with
no,
50 pounds of impacted meat in his colon. Give him a break.
no, he's okay. How do I describe John Wayne? John Wayne for me. This is for me personally. It's not for anybody else. For me personally, was
Yes.
a
Yes.
racist, a sexist, a misogynist, probably an anti-Semite. I mean, I reckon there's anything that there's out there, he probably was. You know, I think he was probably narcissistic. Like he was the Donald Trump of the movie world of his time, probably. It's the way I
Do
kind
you
of
know
see.
this based on reports, or is this your
No, no,
personal
no, no.
feeling
This,
about
this
him?
is just the way, the impression I get from him. All right.
Holy shit! That's
Okay.
okay.
However, in saying that, I have never seen a
I
John
was
Wayne.
like, holy shit! I didn't know all that about him.
No, oh
Damn.
no. This is just me. This is just me. Please,
I'm
please,
gonna rethink the Quiet
please,
Man altogether.
please, the Wayne family don't sue me, right? Okay. I'm not saying it's facts, right?
Wait,
But
that wasn't his real name.
oh, okay.
There is no Wayne family.
But what didn't his kids take the name Wayne on though?
I don't know.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure the kids called. I know it's not. His name was actually a very early
It was
one.
Marion was the first name,
Marion, yeah.
which was my great grandmother's name.
However, it was also the man who saved Australia had a female name. The man who invented the Owen gun, the gun that went on to fight the Japanese in the Australian Army in the Second World War, which was a. I don't want to bore you with the history of firearms, so we won't go down that
Well, I
track.
do love to shoot, but we won't discuss
But we
that.
won't we won't we won't go down the history of firearms design in Australia. That's not something anyone wants to listen to. But yes, but
Oh.
no, he did. But anyway, he had a girly name, but that's all right. But however,
Well, you didn't
but
tell me what the name was. What was the
it was
name?
the same name. It was the same name.
Oh, Marion.
Yeah. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So the and I did remember seeing some people on a shooting fucking channel when they were talking about the history of the Australian Owen submachine gun, and they were laughing at the person's name, going, "Oh, they obviously have some girly names in their country." And I sort of thought, John Wayne had the same fucking name. You arsewipe. You Trumpers shits. John Wayne's one of your heroes. Yeah. Anyway. No, but what I was trying to say was that I've never seen a John Wayne film that I haven't liked. I love John Wayne. I adore John Wayne films. Whenever a John Wayne film, I love him. I watch him. I watch him all the time. I love him to death, and I know that he was an asshole. But the problem is, I don't know. Somehow
No, you believe he was an asshole.
What?
You don't know.
Well,
I don't know that, but now I'm wondering, and now I'm going to actually have to look at that
really
up
think
because
that he wasn't?
look,
I mean, I reckon he was.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to judge people without them saying
know.
something or doing something that even if they're dead, that's kind of, I don't know.
But there were
I don't know.
There were
I
those
don't know.
interviews that came out, in the 1970s of him referring to African American people in very not friendly ways.
Oh, see, now that's a different thing. Like, honestly, if you're saying to me that there's some kind of like verification, it's not just your feeling, then yeah, I'm going to have to look a little more into that. But yeah, I agree with you about the movies though, because those are movies I watch with my dad on Sunday mornings, after baseball or whatever, or before it. And, rainy days, sitting there watching old movies with your dad, you watch John Wayne films and stuff. So The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, that's one of my favorites.
Oh, yes.
And then The Quiet Man
probably is a beautiful film.
But I still laugh about how, here's a stick to beat the lovely lady with, the woman says as the mob follows them home. It's like, what?
What about McClintock? Is it McClintock?
McClintock, yeah.
I love that film. I think it's a wonderful film. I love it. However, is it as sexist and as racist as they come? Oh, fuck yes. It is so racist. It is. And it is so sexist. Is it Marina Hara who plays his wife?
Yes, and she's also in a Quiet Man.
Right, yes.
She's that fiery redhead.
Yes. But she does stand up to him, but at the same time, there is that thing where she's forced to be chased by him through the streets in her underwear.
Yeah,
that is pretty humiliating, and I don't, and the whole idea that she gets her comeuppance. Well, I can't speak at the moment. There's too many cocktails. Sorry, but she gets her what's coming to her. So then she falls back in love with John Wayne. It's like, really.
Those movies were made in a time period, and I think you probably know this, where that kind of thing was a look, because technically they were set in the past, and it was a way for men to watch movies and feel good about the good old days where they could beat their wives in the street, So, they like a feisty woman, but they like a woman who will just do what they say in the end, I think it's part of the whole manly fantasy thing. And I get that, but I'm still now, watching some of these films appalled by what has happened in them. I don't remember if it was you and I were talking about movies from the 80s from the US, like the John Hughes films, like 16 Candles.
Yeah.
Like, you raped a drunk girl that a boyfriend sent you home with, and in the end you were like, he's like, I really hoped you liked it. She goes, I think I probably did. And I watched that recently and I went, holy shit, no wonder we live in a fucking rape culture.
It's
It was just so crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing the way. Well, I suppose the thing is that in the 60s, the 50s, even the 70s, we didn't talk about sex quite as much. By the 80s, we're full on sex driven in our movies, and now we're sort of saying what we think, and we're saying having sex with drunk women is acceptable. But no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not. It's absolutely. If someone is not able to understand what is going on around them, then it's rape. I'm sorry. It is. That's end of story. Right?
Sorry, I got
there's bones in it. As they say.
Excuse me, I cannot stop coughing.
Let
me take a break for just 1 second.
We're just going to take a quick break. And we are back, and Irish is alive. You're still alive?
Oh,
You're still with us?
I'm sort of, I think. I'm sorry, everybody. I took a drink of something and went down the wrong pipe, and I couldn't stop. And we were saying it was because I had frozen custard earlier, which is awful. And then, Warren, you horrified me by telling me that you like anchovies, which is awful, which got us talking about fish in general.
Yes.
And tell them what Australian fish and chips are made out of instead of cod.
Australian fish and chips, well, the fish is shark.
Which is crazy.
Why is it, I hate to say this, but why is it crazy?
I don't know. I guess because I wouldn't expect it. Like, I would have never expected that. I've eaten fish and chips for years. Yeah, no, I mean, we eat shark here from time to time. I try not to encourage the killing of ocean predators because I do feel like we probably need them.
Okay. These are not. I should just point out, these are not tiger sharks. These are not great whites, or you call them, great whites.
Wait, what kind of shark is it?
It's gummy sharks. These things are about 1 meter long, and that's a big one. It's about 1 meter long.
So they're small, like a dogfish in a sense?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
They're in
but
packs.
Still.
They're not. Okay. However, and this particular shark is not on the endangered species list. It is, okay, right. It is like...
Well, if you guys are if they have like a thing there where you guys eat it that way, I'm sure that there's farms.
Yeah. These are small, as they say. The worst thing a gummy shark will do is give you a love bite. Okay? They're not a big toothy, take your leg off. These are not white pointers. Actually, that's a double term in Australia. White pointer means two things. It's a beach.
We call those Karens here.
I'm sorry. Well, no, it's what is it? What do you call it? A great white. A great white. But we call them white pointers. But white pointers also means the topless women on the beach. So it's a double term.
Freudian.
Well, yeah. Think about it. Anyway, so.
That's so sexist, Warren.
Oh God, that's 2 strikes. Ka-ching! 2 strikes. Oh my God, one more and I'm out. I'm out of the show.
You're lucky I don't keep score. So.
I'm so bad.
I just like to scold you.
I know. But anyway, yes. Because when most people who have fish and chips, most cultures that have fish and chips use cod. If you're in the United States and you get fish and chips,
maybe
it's cod. Well, there must be people other than you.
If they say it's cod, and if they don't say it's cod, it's most likely pollock.
Oh, well, the other one is hake. Hake is also popular.
Yeah.
Because the other thing too is that cod is the general fish which is used, as in Australia, shark is the general fish which is used. But of course, going to any fish and chip shop, or a chippy, as the British call them, it's like you can choose what fish you want. You don't have to have that fish. You can have a different. fish.
That's kind of interesting because I like grouper if it's fried, and I like
Right.
mahi if it's fried. But I'm
Okay.
for the most part not going to eat fish that isn't in fish and chip style when I'm out in
It has to
public.
be in
And then I
beer
still
batter.
need to have the malt vinegar with it. I
Oh
can't. It
no
has
no
to be
no!
soaked in it.
Oh no, that is so British and Irish. No no.
Yeah, I know. It has to be soaked in it.
See, Australian fish and chips are a little bit different. Yeah, there are no. Australian fish and chips are a little bit different. So you got shark, so deep fried in beer batter. Okay,
Yes.
God must be beer batter.
Yeah.
No batter must be beer
Well, I mean,
batter.
Australia, beer batter.
Yeah, well,
I can't do it.
you can't. You know, what is it with Marge Simpson? Can I have a cup of tea?
Thank you for
A
hearing me through
beer?
my mind.
No, it's like a beer. No, tea.
Coffee.
Beer.
She says
Tea. Oh,
coffee.
coffee is a coffee. Beer.
Beer.
Coffee.
Coffee.
Beer. Yeah,
Just the massive Fosters because, yeah.
that's right. I mean, even though nobody in Australia drinks Foster's, it's an
Of course
export
you
beer.
don't.
No
Of
one
course
will
you
touch the stuff.
Of course not.
The last person to drink Foster's lager in Australia probably was about 1985. It was right, but people used to call it vitamin F. It was its
Oh
nickname
my
in Australia.
God.
It was called vitamin F, and it was drunk probably up through the 80s. But from that point on, no one will touch it. It's shit. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, it's shit. It's not. It's well, I won't say. I was going to say it's the Budweiser. That's not fair because a lot of people like Budweiser, but um, it's not viewed as a high end beer. It is a real, yeah,
I get it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I know. Yes. So anyway, what were we saying? Yes. So anyway, Australian fish and chips. So yes, it is must be beer battered shark. Chips, of course, and as we're
Yes.
talking chips, not American fucking French fries. Chips. There'll be
So thick,
chips.
like what we call steak fries, maybe? Are they big, thick chips? Or are they
Yes. Yeah,
thinner chips?
they're
Okay.
the size of your finger, like of a man's thumb, like the thickness of a man's thumb.
Oh,
They're
okay. So that's
big,
kind of in
thick.
between. Like, yeah.
They're big, thick chips. That's what a chip is. A French fry is this tiny little thing you get at McDonald's or Macca's, as we
Well,
call it.
steak fries are the big ones, which I really
Okay.
prefer, honestly.
Okay. Well,
But I will go
the
with
steak
crinkle
fries.
fries if I have to.
Oh no! You cannot have crinkle fries with fish and chips. That's a no. That's a
Oh, well, I
big
have
no.
those with gyros.
Well, that's different. No, you have them. I mean, you buy them here. I mean, I know
I can
you buy
have
them.
whatever I want, Warren. I'm a princess.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's all right. But anyway, but if you want to go traditional, is what I'm trying to say. Traditional Australian style fish and chips, which I still think shits all over the British version. But anyway, not that I'm biased or anything. Okay, so anyway,
Not,
we have our what you call in steak chips. Okay? We have our
yeah.
shark deep fried in beer batter, and there is as much beer batter as there is fish. Okay, it's a
Okay.
big amount of beer
Thick
batter,
batter.
thick
Yeah.
batter. Okay, and then we have the sides. Now, this is where we really differ from what you
Okay.
guys are used to, because you'll probably get in the British version, or at
Oh, I'm
least
probably.
a style of the British version, right? You
Yes.
then have a dim sim, which is a deep fried, like a dim sum. Everyone knows what a
Yeah.
dim sum, right?
Yeah.
But imagine a dim sum 3 times the size and deep fried rather than steamed.
Wait,
Right?
what?
Okay,
Really?
yeah, and then you have one of those, two if you're a big pig. But you have one of those. Okay, then you
I
have
get two.
okay, then you have then you have a potato cake or a potato scallop, and this depends on whether you're a southerner or a northerner. Because
Oh,
northerners call
okay.
them a potato scallop, southerners call them a potato cake. Now, what
Okay.
it is a huge fucking piece of potato dipped in batter, deep fried. So it is like a pancake of potato deep fried in beer batter.
Okay, so is it flat or is it round?
No, it's flat.
It's flat. Okay,
Yeah.
so kind of like a latke, kind of like a like
Yes.
a
Yeah,
potato
yeah.
cake. Now,
Okay. But
do you
it's
do
quite
you
thick.
eat those with applesauce, the
Oh
German
no no
way?
no 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 no! Oh God no! You just have them on the side. So this is the second side, because you've got your dim sim,
Okay.
and now you've got your potato cake. Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's your second side. Now there are optional sides, which is the crab stick, which is a deep fried, which is basically seafood mix put into a paste.
Oh, so crab with a K.
Yeah, kind of, right.
Yeah,
And, and
yeah.
and basically given an artificial flavour to taste like crab, and
Yeah.
then put in batter and deep fried as a lawn sausage, like a hot dog. Okay.
Okay, so that's
Now,
like the thing they use in California rolls here when they make the sushi rolls.
yes,
They
yes,
use that crab with the
yeah,
K
and it's not crab. Yeah,
and actually
it's
when
fish heads. It's
Noah
actually
prefers it.
well, it's what it actually is fish heads mushed down and then compressed to take the moisture out to form the same way that they make cheap end ass
The
meats.
Saint Warren, you're just ruining everything for me
Sorry,
today.
oh, sorry. Okay. Well, anyway,
I'm teasing.
you never crab stick. But that's an optional extra, and
I
that's
don't like that.
and the only people and most people don't go the crab stick. What most people go is the Chico roll. You go over Chico. Go Chico. Your life's not fair. Not your life's not good unless you go Chico. Now a
I
Chico
don't know what
roll.
that is.
Okay, a Chico roll is imagine a spring roll.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's put it into a non-Asian wafer, but put it into a beer batter type casing rather than a wonton casing. We deep fry it, and if you imagine what the size of a spring roll is, I don't know.
Yeah.
Trying to think in American terms, three
It's
inches
probably like,
long, 4 inches long, a spring
yeah,
roll,
probably
right?
about that, like
Okay,
two
now,
fingers
okay,
width,
well,
probably.
yeah, okay, well, now think of one which is now 8 inches long, 10 inches long, right? And as thick as probably diameter of 2 inches.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Filled with basically the same filling as a spring
Cabbage
roll,
and things like that. Yeah.
but a lot more veggies, carrot, peas, Western type things are thrown in there as well as the Asian
Okay.
type things. All right. Deep
Okay.
fried, and then you have a Chico. You have a Chico roll. In fact, I still have great memories as a child. You come off the surf beach after surfing, and if you're really lucky, your parents would go, "Oh, we'll go and get a Chico roll." And a Chico roll was just like, all I can do is
You're making
Google
me hungry.
Chico roll. Hop onto the internet, get in your phones, Google Chico roll.
How do you spell it? CH,
Chico
obviously.
CH. So
Was it
Chico roll.
ICKO?
Yeah, I think
C.
so. Yep.
Okay.
Go have a Chico. So you have one of those.
That sounds really yummy, actually.
Oh,
However, the whole anchovy thing, holy shit,
no,
no.
but the Chico roll, trust me, you'll fall. There is nothing better than being at the beach all day, and now it's been sunny. It's been 35 degrees Celsius. The surf's been really good. The girls have got really great suntans, and apart from the girls who wanted to go surfing, they've got half tans because they were wearing wetsuits. The guys have all been out surfing. You're all come back because you're 15 years old, right? You're trying to set the pace here of a young bloody Warren's life. All right, so they come
Okay, all
back.
right.
So they come back. This is not all my life. Because a lot of my life is in the city, but I also have this other life at the beach as well. And the and then it's a little bit like, and then the clouds start to come over. I'm just trying to explain this. The clouds start to come out and it starts to cool down. And the temperature suddenly drops because the storm's going to come tonight, right? And it's all
I know
come
about
through,
those here, yeah.
right? And it's starting to cool down a little bit. It's the sky's all gone black. Everyone's now off the beach, even though we've had this great sun tanning, surfing day. But now, and you go into the fish and chip shop, which is just off from the beach, right? And you go into the fish and chip shop and you walk in there, like 15-year-olds, and you say, 5 Chico rolls, mate. And I'll tell you, there is nothing better. This is like the equivalent of a hangover cure for a teenager, right? Like if like like adults talk about what is the best hangover cure, right?
Bitters and
But
7 Up.
okay, everyone has one. But the Chico roll, this is like for the teenage kid for the day at the beach. This is their day at the beach
Okay.
cure is the Chico roll.
I see.
I can't
It's
explain it.
iconic, apparently, there.
It is. They made a
I
song about it. There is a song called the Chico Roll.
Well, I've never
Um,
heard of those here, and I'm not saying that they don't exist because maybe they do somewhere, but I feel like an Australian like quick service joint could really do well here.
well, I'll put
Because those foods sound pretty good. I don't
it's
know what kind of fish that shark is, but but
how you change it to the local fish. I mean, it's like, but a Chico roll. I don't know if you'd like a Chico roll. I'd love to send you one. I don't know if they ever get through customs. I mean, these things have to be kept cold. You know
I'm
what I mean?
still waiting on my Tim Tams.
They've been sent. They have been sent. I sent, in case anyone else know, I sent Irish one, two, three, four, five, six packets of Tim Tams. In
Because
some,
I'm addicted to them because of you.
well, because I had sent some Tim Tams to Irish before, and well, mind you, I hate to say this, find anyone in the world that doesn't like Tim Tams. I mean,
Yeah,
seriously,
yeah.
you can say anything. You hate Australia. You should detest it. You should call it. It's like the People's Republic of the South. Like if you're a Trumpist. It's like the People's Republic of the North, and it's about Canada. Australia, People's Republic of the South. Because we're these terrible social democracy. Oh, you communists down in Australia. But I'll tell you what, you will win anyone over with a Tim Tam. There is something about the Tim Tam. I still think the greatest biscuit, or what do you call? You call them crackers,
Cookies.
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 The
Yeah, cookies.
greatest, okay, the greatest cookie ever made, and I
It's
stand
so
by
funny
this.
saying that.
I know, cookie. Cookies is cookie. 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 It
Yeah,
sounds
cookie.
like a
Say it a
stripper's
bunch of
name.
times in a row, and it just sounds like
Well,
nonsense
it
too.
sounds, it sounds, it sounds like you go to a gentleman's club. It's a bit like, and now on stage
Well, you know.
at quarter past 3 a.m. is Cookie.
Hey, quarter
Uh,
past 3 a.m. is when you get the quality chicks. Okay, I'm not joking. You don't
I
want to go in there on like a Tuesday
oh
at 11 a.m. because
I don't
no,
really
you got the chicks with like the bullet wound scars.
really I've only ever been to one once. I went to one once with a friend,
Oh,
right? And no, this
I'm
is serious.
sorry.
No, I've only ever been to one once, and we got so bored. They're so boring. I mean, serious. I mean, it's like I'm not. And this is the thing I don't get. When you all this stripper culture, I don't get it. This is for me. I don't get it. It's like, you see all these,
Stripper culture.
you see these women at
No,
stripper
we have a
nights going,
rape culture in America, not a
wow, wow,
stripper
it's a
culture.
strip. We went in there, right, and there's these very attractive women dancing on tables, and these men sitting on the tables around them, right? And 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 we're there, and it's like, well, the women are very attractive, and okay, that's been 3 minutes. What are we going to do? But no, I mean, I'm being deadly serious.
No,
We were
okay, well,
bored shitless, and when all pardon me, I just burped. Pardon me, too many
very
cocktails.
rude.
How it's like how rude. Oh my Lanta. Anyway, I've been watching a little bit too much
I
of.
was gonna say it'll sound like Lindsey Graham
Oh
now.
yeah, okay. And and we were there, and we were so bored. And there was this sidebar, I remember, and we went off this sidebar. There were two of us. Went off this sidebar, and we sat there, and the rugby was on, and we just sat there at the bar, ordering drinks, watching the rugby. And there's all these naked women dancing, and we couldn't give a shit. And it's I think the reason is I don't know. I just think it's so impersonal. It's just like
Oh, you haven't been to the all nude touch clubs in Cocoa Beach.
I've heard. I've heard about the. Well, there are strip clubs. These mobile strip clubs. I know that do exist where it's all hands on, and I know that for a fact. Don't ask me how I know. I'll tell you off air. I'm not going to tell you off
Oh.
air.
Now I know something about you.
Yeah, I'll tell you about that off air, not on air. Yeah, the all touch. I know, especially like through like places like in Prague, and I think in Budapest, like through some areas like that. And I know that they exist in America. in
Oh,
Britain
yeah.
and in
Cocoa
Australia.
Beach,
I
Florida,
know, yeah, I
like
know there's
30
this,
miles from me.
which is there's no holds barred, do it you like. Anyway, we're not going down.
I'm not gonna, no, I don't have any problem with what people do in that regard with their bodies. I don't give a shit. And if you want to pay for a girl to be naked and let you touch her, I don't give a shit about that either. And I
Oh,
just
they
think
have,
that that's
but they have the reverse too. It's all you can touch men strippers.
not here. The thunder from down under comes once in a
Yeah,
while.
but they don't get nude. They don't actually take their clothes off. They just get down to their underpants and walk off
Look,
stage.
I'm joking. For the most part, our stripper, environment in our country is really focused on women. And let's be honest, they are pleasant to look at. So we can't
Well,
say that you don't understand why it might happen. But also, yeah.
I still remember, is it Isa Fisher? Isa Fisher, the Australian actress who's married to Sacha Baron Cohen.
Oh, okay.
And they were in America, and it was, I don't know whether it was actually, might have been her hen's night when she was marrying him.
Oh,
And so I don't know if they
oh,
were in
like her
like,
bridal shower in a
yeah,
way,
or,
her
or
bachelorette party.
yeah, hen's night we call it, yeah, bachelorette party,
Ah,
right,
hen's night.
and
That's not sexist at all.
is that sexist? Is it?
I'm
Oh,
teasing
oh,
you.
sorry. Anyway, sorry.
It's a little sexist, Warren. That's what I'm saying.
So ka-ching. Anyway, sorry. That's just what they call me. Sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, all right. Sorry. And anyway, and she said that she took her mum and her grandmum were in the group of people, and they were at the strip club, right? And they were all the strippers there, and the strippers just did that normal thing of male strippers where they only go down to their underpants and they leave, right?
The banana
And
hammocks. Yeah.
yes, the thongs as we call them in Australia, and
But with the
anyway,
tubes in the front.
yes,
Yes.
stuff with.
I don't know how I know this. I've watched a lot of
Okay.
movies.
All right, and anyway, and apparently she said her grandmother, who was, I don't know, like 80 or something, right, was there. She goes, how disappointing was that? I thought we were at least going to see their stuff.
Well, she's 80, not dead. Okay.
Well, I love that. It's like she goes, oh, how disappointing. I thought we were going to see their junk. It's like, oh, that was a wonderful story. I thought it was great. Anyway.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, dear. But I suppose we should move on from the strip establishments of
I was just going to say about that, though. I've known multiple men. You were saying you guys weren't interested at all, but I've known multiple men that have been friends of mine that have come to me. They spend some time at the strip clubs and they get a number from one of the girls and they start talking back and forth and they literally think that these girls are into them. And it's like, you dumbass. Yeah. I love you and you're a great person, but dear God, are you naive? It's like, don't you understand that's how they make money? Because you keep coming back into the club because you think that there's something between you and there's not. It's like you should hear how they talk about you back there.
Okay, I can tell you guys this, okay, because I happen to know someone who worked in these clubs.
Me too.
I used to fucking live with one. But anyway, that's when the earlier days.
That's not important right now.
It's not important right now. But
I also used to live with one, and it's probably not who you think.
No, I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was. To be honest. I'm just trying to picture that now. That's some really interesting.
Everybody needs to be quiet now.
No. Okay, sorry. No. So I'm having fun. And I hope.
So was I. That's why I said it.
I'm having fun, right? Does it ever happen? Yes. What are your chances of it happening? Probably about 1 zillion to 1. All right. I mean, it is.
Is that an actual number?
No, because that's how weird. That's how uncommon it is. Like, does a stripper ever meet a guy in a club and fall in love? Fuck yes, it does happen. The chances of that happening, though, are so remote. It's like the chances of anything coming from Mars are 1,000,000 to 1. She says,
Wait, you burst into song.
I had to a bit of War of the Worlds there, So, but
What?
don't you remember the musical of War of the Worlds? Chances of anything coming from
I
Mars.
have no idea what you're talking about,
You've
but I am
never heard
hilariously intrigued.
have you never heard the musical version of War of the Worlds?
Holy shit,
Never.
no.
Oh
No.
my God, with Richard Burton. With Richard Burton. Um,
What? Is it a comedy, I hope?
no, it's serious. It's deadly
What the
serious.
fuck?
It's an audio music. It's an audio retelling of War of the
Yeah.
Worlds set in when War of the Worlds was set in 1850 whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's all narrated by Richard Burton, but
What
it's
the
a
fuck?
musical.
King Arthur.
Not by King Arthur, by Richard Burton, not King
Richard
Arthur.
Burton played King Arthur.
Well, yes, he did. So did Richard Harris.
And,
I
oh,
mean,
maybe that's who I'm thinking
well,
of.
Richard Harris was in the movie.
Yes,
Richard
okay,
Burton was
that's
on
who I was thinking of.
Broadway.
Holy shit.
Yeah, okay.
No more wine for me.
I don't no. Camelot, my
I'm in
favorite.
that industry and I didn't remember that.
Camelot, my favorite musical of all time. It's me.
It is
It's
one.
me. The merry month of May.
Oh, you would like that one.
I love Camelot. It's Camelot. Camelot.
We're going to have to record a musical album, an ode
I love it.
to random music that we
The
love.
rain will only fall even after springtime. So I love it. Camelot is the greatest musical ever written, I think, personally.
Boy, did I get you to digress from the subject.
What were you even talking about? It wasn't about
I
Camelot.
don't. No, you said Richard Burton. We were talking about him, and then I thought you were talking about Richard Harris, and I mentioned Camelot, and here we are.
Well, I didn't even know where the hell we were.
I remember the anchovies, though, because I'm still horrified from that. That's all I'm going to say. I just...
well. Anyway,
all right.
All right. Let's change the subject. So, look, what I did want to talk about is some news from the week. Actually, not from this week, but the week before, but nothing has happened yet. And that is that the mighty Space Force.
Oh, my God.
Yes, Space Force. Space Force.
Okay.
The new frontier of American militarism. Sorry.
No, wait. I know you have different...
I didn't say that. So I didn't say that.
You did say it. It's recorded for posterity now. And unless you pour wine on your laptop, everyone will know.
Don't pour the wine.
Yeah, okay. Well, I remember you said that we had different Netflix from you in Australia.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case, but if you guys have the option to watch the new series Space Force that just came out with Steve Carell and John Malkovich and Jane Lynch.
You've led right into what I was going to say, because the real Space Force may be facing its very first battle. Its very first battle.
I know
now,
about
it's not going to be on the shores of, what was it? On the shores of, it's not going to be on the shores of Montezuma. It's not going to be.
It's on Earth. That would make sense.
It's not going to be at Normandy. It's not going to be at Khe-Sanh. It's not
also
going to be at
Bastogne.
Or it is. Oh, the Sea of Tranquility. You're quite right. Well done. Boom, boom. Well done. It's going to be with Netflix. Yes, their first fight, their first battle is going to be over copyright ownership with Netflix. I find this fascinating.
Well, the U.S. The government didn't actually trademark the name Space Force, but Netflix did.
It's like, how the... Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's amazing. Isn't it?
Well, we laugh because, it's a big clown show, but also what it just goes to show is that repeatedly, over and over again, we have more and more proof every minute that this entire administration is a complete and utter failure and that they just have no fucking clue what they're doing. And it's a bunch of moronic blind people leading each other around because they all go, oh, look, we're in power now, and it's really disturbing to me because it just makes us all look like fucking morons here. And we're not. We have a fucking moron in charge and he's putting fucking morons in charge.
Do you know something? A prediction, right? If the election goes the way that we're all normal, sane people are praying it goes, right? and Joe Biden becomes president, Space Force will be reincorporated into the Air Force in 2 years.
Yeah, I hope so. They already stole the logo from Star Trek.
They
I mean,
stole
my
it
God.
from fucking. Could you
It's
believe
like
that?
they could actually probably file a suit.
No, apparently, I heard about this. Apparently, they
Is it too
can't.
long?
Oh, that's my chance to cough. Sorry. Apparently, there's technically more than 5% alteration. So apparently, they can get away with it.
So that's some bullshit right there. So you
Right.
can take
So
somebody else's creative work
yeah,
and make a couple of slight changes to it and keep it and call
yeah.
it your own, and they
As
can't
as
do
as
shit.
as, as long as there's more than 5, I think it's 5 or 10%. Yeah. So technically, Space Force's logo is at
Ugh.
least is within 5 or 10% differentiation of Star Trek, and so technically Paramount can't sue them. Is my
That's such
understanding.
bullshit.
I mean, but here's the other thing too. Why the fuck is this? Is this just
Lazy
but
incompetence
is this the world of
or epic
Trump?
trolling.
Is this just the world of Trump? It's a little bit like, oh, Space Force. Yeah, let's give it the Star Trek fucking logo. I mean,
Well,
is it?
it's literally it either has to be complete incompetence and laziness on the part of the people who chose this, or like I said, epic trolling. Maybe somebody in the department designed this thing intentionally to be, obnoxious about it and use something that would be made fun of because that's their way of resisting. I don't know. I don't know who's the person that did this, but whoever it is,
But is this like?
I hope they're trolling because that would be an epic troll, to be
But it,
perfectly
but
honest.
it, is it? But is this like they're putting out the fucking triangle like we spoke about earlier? But I think we kind of got cut off or
Yeah,
distracted.
well,
Right?
because I was coughing. So
But
or
the idea that using Nazi symbols, it's like I think we did. I think we started to get distracted. We started going off onto Ted Cruz being a son of the devil or something or other.
Oh, Lord, you mentioned him again.
Is there something just so hideous about the look of him? There's something that's not. Like when you look at Ted Cruz, you go, "You're not human, are you?" Like there's something that's just like that sort of says, but if there's a belief in, like how these people have this conspiracy theory about the reptilian race that live on this earth that are right.
Yeah.
Okay, but you know what? If Ted Cruz was the proof of that, like I would almost sort of say I can buy into this conspiracy because you know what? I don't think he looks human. There's
Yeah,
something
well,
about him. I don't think the man is actually physically human. I think he's a different species. I don't know. Just wondering. It's just out there. It's just putting it out there.
well, I would like to think that, and many people have actually said that he looks like Grandpa Munster from the Munsters.
Actually, he does. But
Yeah.
he really does. Actually, he really
Yeah,
does.
so he looks like him a bit. So maybe he's not totally human.
But maybe we have Homo. Apparently, we are Homo erectus. Maybe Homo.
On a good day, maybe.
Maybe Homo defectus.
Sorry. No.
Well, there could be another species. I mean, we had Homo
No,
Homo Nathandia. Right?
I think
So
the
maybe
difference is
Homo bullshit, Homo idiot, Homo moron. I don't know.
he's a dominionist, and here's my thought on it. Honestly, I think that you can put up a facade to be a good person if you want, but when you are not a good person, like internally, eventually that facade is going to crack and your real personality is going to come through. And some of us who aren't completely sold or, really naive and gullible to buy this ridiculous nonsense that the GOP seems to keep putting out, I feel like we're not falling for it. And I've gone a little off track.
Well, no,
but he's
if Joe Biden
I feel like
is up
people like him
points.
are no okay. It's 12 points, and again, we were talking about earlier, and I can remember what we were talking about earlier, but not what I was talking about just now.
Our conversations are fluid. They're fluid. Right? They don't work They don't
They're
work
made
in
by
a
food.
linear.
That's the problem.
Well, this is very true.
Alcoholic.
It's like the old grandpa Simpson line. I'm powered by piss and vinegar. At the moment, there's not much vinegar.
Oh, Jesus. That's
Which I don't always love. Anyway,
we say piss in a different way than you do, though. You mean drunk. We're just.
Well, yes. Although, mind you,
that sounds more pleasant.
Mind you, all of this from all the cocktails, I'm needing to run to the boys' room anyway. But anyway,
oh, Lord. Okay.
Anyway, but it's a little bit like don't mention the war, don't mention the war, don't mention the war. So you mentioned the war.
Don't
anyway, you've never watched Faulty Towers, clearly.
I love Faulty Towers. Shut up.
Have you never seen the episode of The Germans? Don't mention the war. Don't mention the war. When
I'm sure I have.
The moose falls on his head, and he goes all nuts, and he goes into hospital, and they've got a German family staying in the thing. And he comes back, and he keeps coming back. And he says, "Don't mention the war. Don't mention the war." And he goes, and he starts goose-stepping around the hotel, and he says, "So that'll be one fried Goebbels, one deep fried Hitler." one sauteed during.
The thing I remember most from that, honestly, is just the line of there's people in the backyard for a wedding. What are we going to serve them? A couple of dead dogs and a pan of baked beans.
I still have at the very end of the episode of The Germans, at the very, very end, it says, and the father of the German family just looks at the camera and breaks the wall and just goes, "How did they ever win?" Which I thought was a lovely line. I thought that.
Well, then before you go to have your break, I'm just going to say then that John Cleese is brilliant even to this day. So,
John, look, I both love and hate John Cleese.
Aww.
Well, no. When I was a kid, I loved John Cleese. John Cleese is one of my heroes. Okay, he did it. But so too was Michael Palin, Eric Idle.
They've said some shit.
So I have a lot more respect for someone like Michael Palin. I think
he's done an amazing thing.
But Michael Palin, as they always say, he's the Ringo Starr of Monty Python. You know, it's like when the Beatles went to India and they met the Maharaja, whatever, who they realised was just a con man when they had been there, right? And they went there all spiritual, and then they realised it was a con man, and three of them talked about how they were disappointed they'd come back. Ringo Starr was just like, didn't like the food, man. You know, he was more concerned about having to eat curry, than he was about. But there was something very simplistically honest about Ringo Starr, which is
I agree.
So different.
He wrote Yellow Submarine, dude.
Yeah. And he also married Barbara Bach, who is probably, I think, Barbara Bach, if not the most beautiful Bond girl ever, at least in the top three. I know you shouldn't rate people; it's wrong, but we rate the James Bond, so give me a break. That's all right.
We didn't actually rate the James Bond because you poured wine on your computer when we talked about them. So people have no idea how we talked about how Daniel Craig is the best Bond by far. And we're just going to be both quiet about that now because you said you were going to take a break, and now I need a break. I'm just going to end on that. But also we know Barbara Bach is Daisy Duke here, so from the Dukes of Hazzard.
What?
We know
Barbara Bach was in Dukes of Hazzard.
She was Daisy Duke. Where do you think the term Daisy Duke shorts came from?
That's not Barbara Bach. Barbara Bach wasn't in Dukes of Hazzard.
Wait, am I that stupid? Really?
No.
Wait a minute.
She's not a blonde. Wasn't in Dukes.
Wait a minute. I'm looking it up because I feel like you're wrong.
Barbara Bach is in The Spy Who Loved Me, most well known for being the Bond girl in The Spy Who Loved Me.
Okay, but I'm going to look.
Okay.
I'm looking.
I'll just
because I could
music.
Again be wrong with like Richard Harris.
No,
that whole thing.
It's okay. I'm just going to do. We're doing the elevator music.
Yeah, hang on. I'm looking up.
I'm just doing the elevator music. Do, do.
Wait a minute.
Third
What is the
floor,
name of the? Wait,
men's
look up,
underwear, slight support, socks. Moving on to
dude.
floor three. Do,
Dude,
do, do,
it's Bach.
do, do,
Wait,
do.
Catherine Bach. That's
That's
her
not
name,
the that's not
Catherine Bach,
that's
not
not the same
Barbara.
person. No, Barbara Bach. Look up Barbara Bach.
No, I was saying Daisy
Oh,
Duke
it's
was
Daisy Duke.
Catherine Bach.
Is
So that
Catherine
was
Bach.
me again, messing up in
So
name
no,
because
that's
I've
not no,
had
no, no, no. That's
5 glasses of wine.
don't worry. I'm working my way
I
through
said
stocks. It's all
I
good.
work in
Um,
casting, dude. It's wrong of me to not know these things.
but
I'm
Barbara Bach. Okay,
embarrassed.
there are in my opinion there are the three ultimate Bond girls.
Okay.
And the one of whose names I've forgotten, even though so I'm going to have to quickly hop
Oh,
on
she's got those
Google.
big
Just, just,
eyes.
just,
Well, you know what? I thought you needed to
no, no,
take a
no, no, no,
break.
no. Well, yes, but I'll forget if you come back. We won't talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. All
Um,
right.
uh, okay. Hang on. Here we go.
Her eyes
Okay.
are massive. I remember her now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. No, huge,
Like
huge.
big
Yeah, yeah,
eyes. She's
yeah.
beautiful.
Okay. So here we go. Now, in my opinion, this is nothing to do with the actual Bonds, but the Bond girls, the top three Bond girls, in no
Mm-hmm.
particular order, are Barbara Bach
Mm-hmm.
from The Spy Who Loved Me,
Okay.
Daniela Bianchi, I think her name is, from Russia with Love,
Oh.
and Tanya Roberts from A View to a Kill.
Oh, Tanya
She
Roberts.
played Sheena. Just give me a break,
I know.
okay? Um, now, now those are not necessarily based on acting ability.
No, it's on looks. I see what you're
Those,
objectifying them
yeah,
again. So that's
because
totally what Bond girls were for back then. I get that.
yeah,
But I
but
want you to know that I have 2 pictures of Sheena on my wall as we speak. She's looking at me from two different
which
sides.
Sheena,
So,
though? Because there's different
well,
Sheenas.
you know, the one from America,
Well,
the one that
all of them.
worked on,
That's fucking all of them.
the
Did I
one
just
with
say
Gina Lee Nolan.
Gina Lee
That's
Nolan?
who
Okay,
I'm.
I
Yeah,
followed. I followed Gina Lee Nolan on both Facebook and Twitter. She never followed me back, but I do follow her.
I wouldn't take it personally.
She sent me a tweet. She sent me a tweet once though.
That's cool.
When Sharknado, she was in Sharknado 3 or 4, I think it was, and
Okay.
she sent back the thing that I am now both a Sharknado babe and a
And
uh,
Baywatch
no, and
Bay.
a Baywatch babe, right? I've hit
Yeah.
two cultural like I'm now
And
into
also a
oh,
panther.
yeah, yes, oh yeah, yeah.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
no, don't worry. Sheena fans will get that joke, and everyone else won't.
Oh,
Anyway, but and I sent her one back and said, "Don't forget, you're also a Sheena, right?" And then she went back and she changed her tweets to say, "I'm a Sheena babe, a Baywatch babe, and a
aw,
Sharknado
that's
babe."
cute. That's so
So,
cute.
yes, I have had a communication with Gina Nino
That's
Nolan.
quite sweet, actually.
Because she'd totally forgotten that she played Cheetah while
You
all
know,
that was going on.
I
Because I
just want to
realised,
say that I went back and watched the original first episode of that
yeah,
again the other day, and dear God, ellipses.
ellipse.
I'm sorry. The first episode of that of her series on this was just outrageously weird and
It's
just weird.
it's weird, and I wonder if it's most of it just her running around with her top off. Actually,
Well, no, there were some really terrible, terrible transformation scenes too. You can't forget
oh
those.
yeah,
Look, the actors that were in the show, and I'm not biased by this because I only worked on the extras. Actually,
yeah.
my mother booked the local principals on the show, but the main cast was already in place before they came here. But I forgot what I was saying.
Uh, about the actors in the general
Oh,
cast, the main cast. The
yeah.
opinion of the cast.
Um,
Okay,
Warren was wrong.
my attitude on. Can I say something? So maybe you can have.
They were good.
Okay,
That's all I was going to say. They were
okay.
good, but you know, the local
Scripts.
actors, fantastic.
Okay, this is my whole attitude of Sheena 2000. all right, is that
Wait, had they done another one
no,
or just this
that's
one we're
it. That's
talking
what
about?
that's
Okay,
what it's
okay. I
that,
didn't
yeah.
know that. Like
Yeah.
we don't call that Sheena
Well,
Two
well,
Tails.
okay. Well, we have to because there's been three versions of Sheena on the screen, so we have to diversify.
Do you
Or
know that
we
I've never seen anyone but the one that I worked on? I
okay,
don't have
okay.
time for that
All
kind
right.
of thing.
Well, anyway, what I will tell you, this is my opinion on it, is that
Okay, okay.
there
I
is
remember what I was.
nothing wrong. I love the Sheena you worked on. Okay, I love it. Okay,
It was a
but
nonsense thing.
but now if you look at other shows that were being made at the same time, like there was one with um if you look at all of the American type action adventure, but kind of like crime, anything that's a bit different at the time, they're no different. Okay, they're no
Oh no,
better,
yeah,
they're
we
no
made a lot of
worse,
cheap
right?
TV.
Okay, the TV is cheap. It's not that the show's cheap. They were all like that at the time.
Yeah, but I'm just going to say that it was that the show was cheap, and I mean budget. Okay, so the
Right,
budget
okay.
was low, which means your transformations from Sheena into a panther take 3 whole minutes on screen. But when she wants to leap across a 2 foot ditch to get to somebody, she turns right back into Sheena immediately and tackles them.
Oh, look,
So,
I'll put it this way.
yeah.
The 1950s version, which is all filmed in California, from my understanding, still kind of looks like Africa. You can believe that you're in Africa. Right?
Oh, you could make that shit look like it here too.
But and obviously the 1980s movie version, well, it was filmed in Kenya, so clearly it's actually in Africa.
Well, at least they
Um,
had the budget for that shit.
they went way over their fucking budget. Apparently the
Did
problems.
they?
Oh, I can tell you the problems they had with that film apparently because they had to bring in animals from the US because they couldn't find
Oh,
trained animals in Africa.
what? Oh my
Right. Oh,
god.
and then they had to hire Kenyan security guards to stand
Holy shit.
over the lions and the elephants who were in these cages. Well, not like for sleeping purposes, I'm talking about, right? In
Yeah,
these
yeah.
areas, and they had to literally have these armed. But we're talking like with
Oh,
fucking
Jesus.
rifles, stand over them because the native wildlife was trying to come in to mate with them,
Holy shit. You
right?
know, there's two rules
Um,
in cinema: no children and no animals. You don't work
yes.
with children or animals,
Yeah.
period.
But what was the problem was they couldn't get trained lions in Africa. They had to fly the animals in from America.
Because who's shooting movies and training lions in Africa? Like, who's doing
Um,
it?
yes, so
Maybe
anyway.
some people, but probably not, for
Well,
the film and TV industry.
well, it does lead me on to one of my favorite films as a kid is a movie called uh, Hatari. Hatari. Du, 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 du,
I feel
with
like I've
John
heard it,
Wayne.
but
It's a
I
John Wayne
don't
film.
know
It's a
that I've seen
John
it.
Wayne film with Hardy Kruger, Red Buttons, and a
Uh-oh.
number of very famous, who I've now forgotten, two very famous French actors and a famous Belgian actor who I've forgotten their names.
But you remember
Um,
their nationalities, so that's weird.
well, this is who I am, you know.
I can't
Um,
remember
and
names today either.
and uh, and
First or last, that's all I'm going with.
as a kid, I grew up. They live in this house in Kenya, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they go off for the season 6 months, and they trap animals for zoos and bring them back. Now, you don't remember when I was a kid, zoos were still seen as being good, right?
Well, yeah, I
They
mean,
were not seen as being maybe not so good as they are today.
yeah,
And
same thing for me.
and so when I was growing up, the idea that these guys and girls, because there are a lot of women in this movie, well,
Mm-mm.
two anyway, but an
A
action
lot.
for an action adventure movie, 6 guys, 2 women, that's a pretty good
Yeah,
ratio.
well, two
Okay,
women is a lot for any
this
man. I'm
movie
sorry.
too was made in like 1950. This movie was made in like 1958.
I like how
Anyway,
you
okay, so
ignored me.
sorry, I'll just stand by this fucking movie. All right, so just all right, and and
I'm
and
not letting up.
no, it's all right, okay.
All right.
When I watch it now, it is so sexist, and there is a thing by and there is a line by Hardy Kruger. And I do not believe Hardy Kruger was an evil man at all. He escaped the Nazis, his family. He hated the Nazis. I mean, Hardy Kruger, not a Nazi or anything like that. But
Well,
there
you
is
can hate
something.
you can hate Nazis and
Right.
still be a terrible person.
Well,
I'm just going to say that. I don't know anything about
there
them,
is a line in the movie which to me looks like it's ad libbed, like it's not part of it.
right?
And he's talking to the black African people who work in the compound, right, in their for their company, and he really does speak to them like they're second class citizens.
Well,
Now, what's interesting when you see John Wayne talk to them or Red Buttons talk to them, they talk to them all. To be honest with
like
you,
they're
like they're
people.
people. And you see
Yeah,
Hardy Kruger, it's a little bit like, oh, the boys will take care of that. The boys will take care of that. Right?
yeah.
The boys, right? Now, but I don't think that that's actually a racial thing from Hardy Kruger. I think it's a classist thing. I think he's viewing
Uh,
it that he's upper class and they're lower class. The problem
mm,
is in the modern world that comes across as I'm white and you're black, right? But I don't think that's what Hardy Kruger was doing. I think was more classist. But the problem is when you look at it now and you go, oh, that's really uncomfortable, you know?
yeah. There's
Pardon
a
me.
like. Oh, you okay?
Yeah.
Like the stuff we were talking about before. There's a lot of that. Like in old movies that you loved and growing up, if you watch them again after a long time, you start looking at them kind of in a different way, and because you've actually learned more, hopefully, over your existence on the planet, and not just shut out any new information. You know, hopefully over time, as a person, you've evolved enough to actually notice things that you didn't notice when you were younger. Because I know that's happened to me. When we're
Oh,
talking about the
yeah.
John Hughes films and things like that, like I go back now and I listen and I think, this is not a great message for girls, like at all. I get they're fun movies or whatever, and they're iconic and they mean something within that kind of atmosphere. But I think we need to be really careful, especially as we go forward now, um, to make sure that when future generations and our kids actually look back on the stuff they watched from our time, that they don't immediately, like, eventually go, holy shit, they were so fucked up on that. It's so racist,
Well,
or that's so like rapey, or because I actually hear songs on the radio all the time now. When I go places with my mother, actually, she listens to country music, which I like. I like all kinds of music, but I don't usually listen to it on my own. But there's been some songs recently that have been put out that as I'm listening to the lyrics of them, I'm like, holy shit, this is super fucking creepy and rapey. And the reason I started thinking about it was because of the Christmas song, Baby It's Cold Outside. Like, I actually, and I don't know what led me to do it, but I started listening to it one day and I just was like, holy shit, this girl is saying her mother and father are going to be up waiting for her, and maybe like all these things, and he's just coercing her, have another drink and stay longer. And like, I don't know, it's just creepy and fucking rapey. And after that, like, now I've noticed a lot more lyrics and music that are just in pop culture here, especially in America, that just have the weirdest fucking message that we're giving to our children, our boys and our girls. And growing up in that kind of society, I think, is really difficult for a woman to navigate
it
without feeling like she has to use her sexuality or body to get by.
it really is, and we're going to talk more about this in just a few moments
Because you needed a
because
break like half an hour ago.
the Saint needs a fucking slash. All right, it's that simple. All right, so give us 2 seconds. We'll be right back. All right,
It's
we'll
your
be right
fault.
back.
Okay.
And we are back. The Saint had a slash. So, um,
We've discovered new things about Irish's microphone too.
no, yeah, we have.
That's pretty funny.
We have, yeah.
All right,
So
we're not going to go on with that.
we're not going to go into it. Just don't let ASIO know that
Yeah.
don't know if you're using the right brand. Anyway, so
Ellipses, as I say.
anyway, we're going to move on from Bond girls and all the rest of it.
Oh, I forgot we were
And
talking about that.
we
Hey, just out of curiosity, though, how many times is the most time you've ever seen one particular Bond movie? And which one was it?
the one I've watched the most.
Yes.
Oh, are you saying the one I've watched the most or my favourite?
No, the one you've watched the most number of times.
Probably The Spy Who Loved Me.
Oh, yeah?
However, I am a huge fan of Spectre, and I know it's been canned. People say it's horrible, but I actually
Mm.
think it's a really good Bond film. I don't
I
understand
can't,
why
like,
people don't like it. It's got Blofeld, Moneypenny. It's got Bond. It's got a really fucking hot French Bond girl in it. She's French. Fuck! How
yeah,
hot is that?
yep,
Right? She's
yep.
actually French. Um,
Spoiler, she doesn't actually live
we
through it,
have
but it's fine.
I think the best fucking M we've ever had, which is, was it Ralph Fiennes? I think he's the best M. Dame Judi Dench was great, but he's brilliant.
Uh,
I love him.
he was great. I
Right,
admit that.
and
And Judi Dench is great as
yeah,
as
but
for
so
sure.
I don't understand why there's all this hate to Spectre. The music is great, the action is great, the story is great. They tie all the last three Bond films together into the fact that it was all under the concept of Spectre, of fucking Blofeld. Um,
Right.
what's so bad about that? I don't get it. I
I
don't
don't know
get.
what they didn't like about it either.
I,
I love all of Daniel Craig's Bond films. I love them. But it's
it's
definitely
yeah.
not the one I've seen the most.
It's no. Well, okay. Tell me, what is your favorite Bond film? What is the one you've seen?
Oh, well, my favorite Bond film, okay, which is
Hmm.
different from what I was saying. Yeah, like,
Oh, that's what I was going to
because
say. Then my favorite versus my one of my favorites is From Russia with Love. I
that's
think
a great
that's
one.
brilliant. Second
Yeah,
film, brilliant.
absolutely. I'm honestly going to say that probably as an adult watching these films again, um, probably the remake of Casino Royale with Daniel Craig was my
Well,
favorite.
it
Now,
wasn't. It wasn't actually a remake. It was a
well,
rebirth.
kind of, yeah,
We don't.
reboot.
We don't.
Everything's being
I don't know if
rebooted.
we really count the David Niven version
I
of Casino
I don't
Royale.
ever think of David
Um,
Niven when I think of Bond. Like
and
I just don't.
Peter Sellers and
Wait,
that was not an actual Bond film.
wait.
That was a
I was gonna
send
say, what the hell are you talking about? I
that
don't know
was
Peter
no.
Sellers.
In the 1960s they made um a Bond film called Casino Royale, which is based off the very original novel, and
Yeah.
it was always argued why did Bond start with Doctor No, but anyway. Um, yeah. But um, but it's a send up. It's an Austin Powers style version of
Oh,
James Bond, which they ran bloody close to the wind in regards to copyright and infringement and so forth. But they got away with it. It's often been referred to as the movie from hell because it had 8 directors.
oh God,
It
what a
was
crime!
the main star, Peter Sellers, walked out 3/4 of the way through the film, and they had to shoot around him. The other, he wouldn't be in the same room as other actors, and they had to shoot the
Oh God,
shots and link them. Right? It was
what the
apparently
fuck is okay?
it was the movie from hell. However, if you ever watch it. And if you want to see a psychedelic 60s spy film, which is
Oh,
so out there, this is the one to watch. However, I will warn you, it's over 2 hours long, right? But if you want that 60s psychedelic, the spy, like
yeah.
this is the ultimate send up of the 60s spy movie. It's great. You just look it up, watch it. It's easy to find.
I That's
It's
highly amusing. Is it in the sense of do you know the film My Man Flint?
okay. It makes My Man Flint look like a kindergarten production compared to a university production.
Okay.
All right,
All right.
this movie has so many famous people in it. Just do it, like famous people just turning up for 3 seconds to say a line.
Like Sharknado.
Yes, yeah. It was the absolute ultimate of the send ups of the send ups. It was a send
Oh.
up. It was a send up movie before there were send up movies. Right? This a lot of people in film history do not get how important the original Casino Royale movie is. Like I love Mike Myers. I think he's a very clever guy. Right? I really do. However, that man has stolen so much shit from so
Oh,
many people. All
so
right.
many people have, but yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
All right. So all I will say is this: watch the 1960s comedy. It's a comedy
Well,
send
then I'll
up
watch.
of Casino Royale, and then
Okay.
talk to me about how you feel about Mike Myers.
Okay.
All right.
Well, honestly, like, look,
I
I understand sometimes people take old ideas and repurpose them and reboot them in a way, after the fact. I appreciate that Peter Sellers played a comedy version of this, but I don't know how you could.
look. It's a
Okay.
high production. The music is brilliant. The music is being done by Burt
Oh my
Bacharach.
God.
Burt Bacharach, right?
Well,
You
he did
know,
Austin Powers
well,
music.
yeah, and he did also right and this, and it's
Does that make him satire as opposed to whatever it is that you are so,
well,
you
no.
know,
Well, how do you satire satire? What do you call satire of satire?
satirical satire?
Okay, well,
Boom.
but then again, there are many people who say, like for instance, that is okay.
You
Definitely
didn't
with the
appreciate that the way I
no,
did.
no,
I'm
no.
sorry.
I didn't.
I'm very amused with
But
myself
the
right
thing is about Austin Powers. Austin Powers is not just a send up of James Bond. It is a send up of the Man from Uncle. It is
now.
a
Yes.
send up of
Of all those spy things.
our man Flint, Inlight Flint, the Flint movies, right?
Yes.
Okay. It is also a send up of the Harry Palmer films, and this is what people didn't get fucking about the third movie, the last movie, about Michael Caine being his dad. No
Oh,
one
so it was an
fucking got
Easter egg because I don't know what movies you're talking
right
about. So of
because the
course.
glasses. Now, when you look at Austin Powers' glasses, look at it. Go back to the original one. He's the glasses he wears spectacles, right?
Yes.
Go and watch a movie called The Icarus File in Britain with Michael Caine. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. He drew more or as much from Dr. No as he did from the Icarus file. So he drew as much from Sean Connery as he did from Michael Caine, right?
Hmm.
Because these were equivalent spy films of the times. The problem was the Icarus file only ever made 5 movies, where the thing was James Bond is now at 25.
It's a franchise, yeah,
Right.
but
Okay.
other people.
Right. Okay. So, but if I said to you the Icarus Files, do you know what that franchise is? Do you know about
No,
those movies? No. And
no.
all I can say to you, please hunt them down. Michael Caine as James Bond. You've got to fucking see these things.
Okay, I'm gonna
Um,
watch that,
now,
but I'm
you,
gonna
I
tell
mean,
you right
Michael.
now. No, listen. I love Michael Caine, but Michael Caine is a very one-dimensional actor. He literally plays Michael Caine
Yeah,
every
but
in
that,
every
yeah,
role.
but that's
But
not. He's the Hugh Grant. He's the Hugh Grant of fucking
ugh,
60s British cinema. But here's the thing.
yeah,
But this is what the thing about those movies is. They're real. There's no one's driving Aston Martins. But if he has to get from point A to point B, he
takes the
catches
bus.
the bus.
I said
But
that
but he's the world's
jokingly,
biggest spy. But he catches the bus. This is the you. Oh my god! You've got to watch the fucking Icarus movies.
oh
There
my
are
god.
5 of them. They made 3 of them in the 60s or the 60s into the early 70s. Walter Matthau plays a bad guy in one of them. They're quite big, okay? Um, there,
Oh, it's
okay.
like
And
a
then we get.
festival of one-dimensional
Oh, but
actors.
here's the best thing about them, right? When we went into the late 80s, early 90s,
Hmm.
they did three films. James Bond was huge. They never went any further. They decided that they would rebirth the series of Icarus, okay?
Okay.
And Harry Palmer, as we know him. And
Yeah.
see, Harry Palmer. What sort of spy name is Harry Palmer? Right? Okay,
Gee,
it's not James Bond, right? And anyway,
it's a
anyway,
common name.
okay, but anyway, so when they brought them back, and then he moves to Russia. They film them all in Russia and stuff,
Hmm.
and anyway, and it turns out that he has a son, illegitimate son, who he takes on board. All right, and
Hmm.
you won't believe who plays the son of Michael Caine.
Who?
The
How do you know I
real,
won't believe it?
okay, the real son of Sean Connery.
Oh, that's cute. I actually heard he was an actor, so that's
Yeah,
funny. Yeah.
he was even in
Yeah.
Doctor Who. He was even in Doctor Who, actually. So
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah, yeah, yes, he had a role in Doctor Who. So,
Well, I didn't get to tell you which Bond film I had seen the most
oh,
times.
sorry, I was so distracted with
I
my
do that to
story.
you all the time. I'm lucky to have remembered.
No, I need to just shut up now and not talk and let you talk for a bit.
Oh my God, why doesn't every man say that to me?
Because
So the one I have actually seen the most, and it was after my family got cable, like honestly, for pretty much the first time. I was living in Naples, Florida, and the very HBO, we had cable HBO like pay service for the first time, and For Your Eyes Only was on,
oh
and I
wow,
watched it 47 times.
wow, for your eyes only. Um,
Yeah, because it was on like in the first month or two that we actually
I don't
got
remember.
cable.
For your
So,
eyes
yeah,
only,
I love it when you
only
sing to
for
me.
you. Sorry, but anyway. Um, see, I know the songs. I know the songs. Even though I spend most of my
Yeah,
time sitting back in my study listening to fucking, Puccini or fucking,
you're just
Tusk.
trying to impress me now, okay? So
Oh no,
you
I love my operas. But when I sit back in my study on a Saturday afternoon, and I sit back there for like a couple of hours doing. I won't say what I'm doing because I don't want to say
does
publicly.
it
But
make you feel like you're a businessman and you're very important?
I
Because
am
that's
a
what made my stepdad feel like when he sat in his
I
office that
I
he
am
had
a
this
fuck I
house.
am a fucking businessman. I don't have to make it feel like right. But when I sit back in my home office study,
Yes.
whatever,
Ooh.
right, and I sit back there and I put on the stereo and I listen to fucking Verdi and Puccini and Tosca is just fucking you can't. That's 2 hours of heaven. I don't know why people
It's
don't.
lovely, actually.
I don't get why people don't like opera. I'll be honest with you. I don't
Oh my
understand.
God.
But
Look, there's only two types of people. There people who love opera and people who hate opera.
yeah,
There is no in between. You
but
can't just be like, nah, about opera.
yeah, do you know the way I view it? I reckon every Trumpist hates opera. Do you know, this is the way I see it. I reckon they hate it.
Well,
I reckon they do.
I'm not going to go that far, but I would believe that they probably like the majority of people who would vote for him might not get opera.
And what? But opera
So
is
okay, I
opera is
get that.
it is it's beautiful
I
storytelling. These stories, these amazing stories, and you sit back for 2 hours, and you can just sit back and you can embrace this amazing story in music. I'll be honest. I don't understand why people don't listen to opera anymore. I don't understand. I don't. I really don't.
well,
I,
I don't know
but
either
I'm
because
also I'm
honestly, I
also
love it.
I'm also. I didn't know you did love it. I
Oh
didn't
my
know
God,
it.
yes. My
Okay, well,
grandmother, my mother's mother was a huge opera fan, and she introduced me to it when I was young. And honestly, and I'm going to be really serious here, unless I'm in like a deeply depressed state, so then all music makes me feel like emotional. The only other time I ever cry listening to music, honestly, is opera.
it's so. Well, hang on.
Musically, I
Here we go.
mean, because Obviously, I cry a lot. Warren. Warren. Holy shit.
Yes! Yes!
Warren. That's very loud.
Okay, sorry.
Settle down. Breathe.
But,
Yes, I
okay.
agree. I
How,
agree.
it's just, how can you not love Tosca? It's just, it is so, it's, oh, look, I don't
We have
know.
run the gamut on this conversation.
We have. Shall we have one final chat and then we'll call it quits? Is that
Yeah, I need food, probably. Yeah.
all right? Okay.
So,
So, all right, let's call it quits. And I thought just before we do, wanted to bring something up
yes.
about a Twitter account, which I thought this was, and I wanted to
Oh,
get your opinion on this before we go. And
okay.
it was a Twitter account which no longer exists. Right? It doesn't exist anymore, and it was a political experiment. All right, in
Mm-hmm.
social media. Now, it was a group of people who ran a Twitter account, started for a Twitter account, and they named themselves Suspend the Press. Okay. Now,
Uh-huh.
what they did was every tweet they put out was a cut and paste of a Donald Trump tweet,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they put it
Yeah.
out. Now, they weren't retweeting, they were cutting and pasting his words,
Yeah.
right? And they put it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know how long it took before their account was suspended?
How
Now,
long?
68 days. Now,
Hmm.
Donald Trump has been running his account since 2000 and whenever, right?
I
Okay.
don't know.
So they were cutting and pasting. Now, I think they started in like 2018
Right.
or
So
2000,
recently.
right? So
Yeah.
cutting and pasting 68 days before Twitter suspended them for
Mm-hmm.
being offensive and inflammatory.
Right.
68 days, and that's the
Well,
president of the United States.
yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you
I
right
just
now, they're
wanted
not going
to,
to
you know,
they're not going to censor him. They're not, because it brings people to the site. It gets interactions. It's the weirdest shit. Anybody with a checkmark account is going to be able to commit abuses way more than anybody else would. I got 12 hours or something the other day for the first time on my political account, which is at Naked Axiom, um, because I had said something, rude, but not anything that should have been construed as like a threat or anything like that. I got suspended for 12 hours for hateful conduct because I said something to Trump that somebody that saw my comment didn't like. So they just went and started, you know, reporting me. So I got booted.
so
And
in other words, another Trump snowflake that hates snowflakes who is a snowflake.
well, I feel like it couldn't have just been one of them
Yes, because
because,
they're all snowflakes. They're all
68 days.
snowflakes.
But I do feel like we can't expect people like Jack, who's the CEO of Twitter. He's really, really self fucking absorbed. And he thinks that he is somehow on a higher plane, I'm just going to say,
Yes.
jokingly, than the people who use his platform. But we are all sick and tired of this person who is just allowed to put out their crap and their vitriol on Twitter all the time. And we get punished for speaking back against him, but he doesn't get, they've started to put a few things on his tweets and his videos. They showed the one that they had, he retweeted the other day of a fake CNN headline with the cutest little video of those two kids, CNN, somebody chases racist baby, blah, blah, blah. It was just like, how low are you in general?
He's
and I keep asking
low.
myself that every day.
Well, put it this way. This is an obese man who wears face bronzer because he hopes as long as his face is tan, people won't notice he's obese. Okay, right. Who no one ever taught him how to wear a tie
Well, okay,
because
I was going to say about the tie, I think he wears it long to cover his tiny penis. That's all I'm going to say.
well, actually, no, it's about his gut. It's actually about no, it's about his gut. Well, this is true. Well, well, what was it? Stormy Daniels. Stormy Daniels confirmed
Yeah,
he's not
it's a
a fuck.
mushroom.
He's not
It's
a well.
probably and
Well, okay, well, okay, well,
it
okay.
probably
I,
really is like a fungus. I'm
okay.
sorry.
I don't think it's fair to say that he's got a micro penis. I don't really think that's fair.
Look, if that's a
But
medical, well, I don't know, but
But
I
however,
look.
all I'm
She's seen a
saying,
few.
he's not fucking Ron Jeremy. All right, is all I'm
Well,
trying to say.
nobody is
Right?
Ron Jeremy, but Ron Jeremy.
No, well,
So
no, he's also I'll be honest, he's also a bit of an asshole. Actually, Ron
I
Jeremy. So
didn't
I
say
don't.
I liked him. I
Yeah,
just said
no, I
nobody is
mean
Ron
no.
Jeremy, but Ron Jeremy.
But what I mean is that if the man wants to talk about penis size, he's not exactly up there. Is all I'm trying to say. However, he's not abnormal. That's not what I'm trying to say.
I
But
wouldn't know because
well,
I
no,
don't
no,
ever
but
want to think about
no.
his penis again. And the fact that you're making me think about it for an extended period of time is making me very
Is
uncomfortable
bad. I shouldn't do that.
and nauseous.
Yes, I shouldn't do it. I shouldn't do that.
I don't, if you have a medical condition and you have a micro penis, I'm sorry for you, and that sucks. And yeah, but don't act like this guy.
First
Personally,
of all,
if he has a
no.
small dick,
I
I
don't
don't
even.
want to
No,
know
can I
about his
just
sex life.
can I just say something first of all?
Yeah.
People in those situations, we have huge support as a society,
You say
as
you say
people.
we. What are you
Well,
telling me? I'm teasing. I'm sorry.
you're teasing me. What I was going to say is that people in those communities, we support you. That's all I'm trying to say. I was not because I didn't want this coming into this
Unless you want to
conversation
have
like
sex.
we're.
Sorry, it's so not right. I'm sorry.
All right.
I'm not trying to be rude.
No, this is one of
I'm
those
being rude.
situations. It's like those 1970s TV shows. There's people like, all right, get your decks down now. All right, let's go for it right now. Go on, let's prove it. You know?
Yeah, well, not here in America. We
No.
might have had some Benny Hill in the 70s. That might have been about it.
Was Benny Hill banned in your country, or was he okay?
Well, no, he was on PBS, I think.
Oh, he was he? Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Nobody cares if a gay guy is chasing around a bunch of women in long underwear.
Well, he wasn't gay. No, Benny Hill wasn't gay.
I had heard he was, but
No,
maybe I'm,
no.
just
he
remember it.
wasn't-
Like, maybe I'm thinking of.
No, Benny Hill was celibate. Yes, but Benny Hill
Oh,
was
okay,
not.
okay.
Was not.
Well, maybe that's
No,
what I didn't understand there.
Benny Hill just was a very odd guy. Is all I can say.
Well, everybody has their sense of humor.
No, Benny Hill. But in all
He
seriousness,
found his audience.
Well, no. Even outside, all right. Here's the thing: Benny Hill did not have sex. Benny Hill was not a sexual person.
Mm-hmm.
Did he love women? But he loved women. But he did not have sex with them.
I don't care if he did, but yeah, that's interesting.
There was something very thin. He had the thing, the Hills. I don't know if you remember this, but it was the Hills Angels on Benny Hill, right? All these women,
Oh, the girls, yeah,
leotards, dancing around, showing their boobs and their bums, or as those women were paid above and beyond.
Oh, I'm sure they were.
Okay, not by the BBC, not by ITV, by Benny Hill himself.
That's interesting.
Like, Benny Hill had this concept that if you were his mate, he would look after you, right? So, in other words, he only hired. This is the reason why you used to get 18-year-old girls doing comedy love scenes with 50-year-old men. And,
That's not the
okay. Now, I realise, right, it's so uncomfortable if we look at it now. But why did it happen? Because Benny didn't leave his mates behind, right? So, in other words, you're a mate of Benny. Don't worry. I'm going to cast you in 5 shows. Don't worry. You're my mate. I'm going to look after you, right?
Yeah, and I get that totally.
Yeah, there was one woman who was one of the Hills Angels. Now, she had nothing sexually ever to do with Benny Hill, yet he paid for her child's education.
Well, he's a good person.
Because they fell in love as friends rather than lovers, right?
Well, you
This,
can love somebody without having a physical connection to
yeah,
them. I don't see, yeah,
Benny Hill he was one of those men he didn't fit into normal society, you know. And
yeah.
and the thing that really annoys me now personally is that I see a number of people on social media say Benny Hill was a horrible man. But
Well, I didn't
Benny,
know him, so I can't
well,
speak
no,
on that.
I didn't either. But everything I've heard from every documentary and interview and everything I've ever seen is that he was a man out of his time, yes,
Yeah.
but he
You
was
know,
not. He was a beautiful man. He was a man who cared for the people around him, men, women, children. It didn't matter. He
you
looked
know,
after what he called his family, right?
right.
And
Well,
and
one person's horrible is another person's generous, you know? Like, you don't understand where people are coming from with their things when they say that he was horrible. But if you go and look at the stories of what he did, apparently, if he did all that stuff, then obviously he's a good person. And whether or not you found him difficult, that might be, difficult might be what they meant and not horrible.
well,
But
yeah, I,
but I don't know. I don't know enough about him. But I'm actually really curious to look up more about him now that you're telling me
I
this.
was curious to hear the story that apparently in the 1950s, late 50s, early 60s,
Hmm?
when he was sacked by the BBC before he was picked up by Thames Television, and
Yeah.
and and he was sitting in a bar. Like he'd literally gone to like a bar, sitting at the bar, and one of his friends from the BBC, or I don't know who the person was, walked up and he just looked at me and he said, Benny was almost in tears. He said, I've never been sacked before. But
Uh,
I don't know how to react. Like I don't know what to do. And
Rejection is hard.
what but it all came down to Benny's upbringing. You know, like he had a very, shall we just say, interesting upbringing as a child, and
Okay. All right.
um,
Which makes me curious to look up more about him, as I said. So
this is a man
that's all
that
you need to say.
well, all I will say is that Benny Hill the thing I have a problem with Benny Hill is he's one of these men who is viewed as being the hatred symbols of sexism. You know, he's
Oh,
like he's put up his face is put up,
objectifying women and yeah.
yeah, you know, and that's not what this man was about. He in his opinion, if he showed somebody's body, he thought he was promoting them. In other words, they'd earn more money, they'd be more successful.
Well,
He didn't understand. Like he was a man out of his time, out of his anyway. I look, it's not for me to defend Benny Hill, but I just want to say to some people sometimes there are some real assholes in this world, but you know
oh, no
sometimes,
shit.
but yeah, but sometimes there are some people who were just people of the time. Don't
Yeah.
kill everybody because they were a person of the time, just because they were a person of the time. Okay,
Look,
do
I'm not gonna
you know what
lie.
I mean?
Like, well, yeah, but I understand what he was doing. He was giving those women a premium that the studio or the actual broadcast network wasn't willing to pay those women for doing what they were doing. And I think if that's the case, then that's fucking amazing. I will tell you, I've been thrown out of the best strip clubs in Orlando and surrounding areas looking for women who look great in bikinis to go
Mm.
out and do things like Thunder in Paradise and things like that when we worked on those shows. They get a premium price over everybody else on the beach that you book as an extra. Women with good bodies get that. And because they are expected in those shows to be there as eye candy, you know? And so you pay them a premium for that. And if they're willing to accept it, then that's their choice. And we had a lot of women who did. But yeah, like I said, I've been thrown out of
Well,
the best strip clubs in Orlando.
well, I know. See, I'm always a bit about a thing about it's like where it is about sexuality, like where we should be, what is right, what is wrong, you know. So in other words, like if I want to
Well,
do if I want to do a feminist TV show, am I allowed to guys running around naked? Is that all right? Is that
I don't
what
know,
they're going to
not on our
show?
networks, but you mean you could do it. I'd
No, no,
watch it
no, no.
probably. Just for the
Okay,
sheer
no,
amusement of the whole
okay.
thing.
But I'm just saying, network things
Wait,
in
would
an
you have
ideal world.
fluffers for them before they ran, or are they just going to run?
What do you
Because
want to know
without
about?
fluffers,
What you want
that's
to know about
kind
the
of just
Saints
like a
network?
nightmare.
You want to know about the Saints network? What the Saints network television is going to be? Is that what you're asking? In other words, we've got a slight problem at a very time that makes it sound really bad. All right, we'll be right back. And we're back, even though the miracle of podcasting. Okay, so hang on.
I got put in time out being
Okay,
bad.
okay. I don't know. Okay, so the whole idea is if you did a TV show, right? Here's the thing. Let's forget about moral standards of TV networks and government. Let's just put them out of the thing, right? So if you were going to do a variety show, and if you want to have male strippers on your show, is that all right?
Yep.
Can you do that?
It depends on what network they're on.
No.
Or,
I said no. In a perfect world, there are no networks.
Why not? Game of Thrones did it. Why not?
In other words, this is a pay-per-view world. We choose the networks we want to choose.
Well,
right?
yeah. I mean, obviously, you'd have that. If people wanted to watch it, they could. I don't care.
Right. Now, if we want to have, let's say, women doing the same thing, is that right?
I think so. If they want to do it.
Yeah. Right. So here's my argument. Don't tell me what's right or wrong. In other words, let's make an equal standard for everybody. An equal nudity standard, an equal joke standard, if you like, right? Because I'm sure there is one. And let's just work on that. In other words, how hard is that? Is it that
I
difficult?
think just let everybody be who the fuck they are, and if you don't like them, then don't listen to them or promote them in any way. So, yeah, I mean, I get that. But I would like to say that I would like more restrictions on older men walking around a neighborhood shirtless over and over when they eat a bra. I'm sorry. Right. I would like to actually talk about it because I want to put
what do you mean by
older
men? What's older men?
I don't know what this dude's age was. Let me say something. I have personal experience in the last place where I lived. There's a guy that would come from probably up north, probably was a snowbird as they call them. They come down here during the winter because it's warmer. Shows up every year and you see him walking the neighborhood, and he walks this route over and over again without a shirt on. Now, look, I don't give a shit if you don't want to walk around without a shirt on. Personally, I find that
it's inappropriate.
I find that I just put a fucking shirt on. Like seriously, you're out in public. I wouldn't let my kid go out like that. He's like half a Sasquatch, so I wouldn't let him do that.
Well, it's not just that. I don't have perfect.
No, but it's clothes.
Just don't do it.
In public. Okay, the problem is that honestly his nipples were bigger than mine. And I have a real problem with having to watch that jiggle down my pathway every 5 minutes when he decides to go. Okay, now, if it was a hot woman or somebody that deserved to have large boobs, that would be one thing. But I don't want to look at that.
You do realize there are some guys that have a bit of boobage. I mean, you do.
That's fine. But don't walk around my neighborhood.
No, this is the thing. Wear a shirt. Wear a t-shirt.
Without a fucking shirt on.
Put a shirt on.
If I have to cover mine, you should have to cover yours. That's all I feel about it.
Okay, can I just say something about America that blows my mind? All right. You've got men with man boobs who are allowed to display them, but women who are not. Okay, how the fuck do your beaches work? I mean,
our beaches work is that you wear fucking clothes, and unless it's a nude beach or a topless beach specifically, and then you can.
So it's not an Australian beach where you just wear whatever the fuck you want.
Oh, hell no. Look, I'm going to just say to you now that probably 95% of the people in this country, you do not want to see topless. I'm just going to say
that bad. It can't be that bad.
Have you seen us? Have you seen us as a society?
Yeah, but
Okay.
that's
I
but
just
we
want
can
you to
all.
think about this. I want you to think about this.
Yeah, but
A
you're
Trump
slim.
rally, a Trump rally at the beach.
Don't know if I want
No.
to see that. Don't know if I'd want
No.
to see that.
No. Seinfeld,
Um,
his show was not wrong when I think they said 98% or 95% of the country is just undateable.
but
It's true.
that's really, is it that
No,
bad? Look, I'll put it this way: all the Americans I've ever met in Australia, the ones physically in Australia, they're
hmm
all they're all super slim. They're all, or well, even if
those are the
they super
people
slim,
that had the money and time and effort to put into going to Australia. I'm telling you right now, they went there.
so you're saying the Americans who travel don't represent America?
Absolutely, that's the case. And I don't even know how many times I can say yes to that because most of the people in our country, most of them have never traveled beyond one or two states, maybe from where they are and where they were born. Especially white people, especially rural white people. I met a girl not that long ago who was dating a friend of mine. She's a 23-year-old girl from a small town outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And don't choke and die on me.
My God,
Um, is that me? You're doing what I did.
no, sorry,
Are you
I just
okay?
oh my God, sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just going to
Please,
say she had never tried Chinese food. That's it, ever.
I just was
But you need to take
terrified.
a break.
No, I was terrified. I just destroyed my second laptop. Sorry.
Are you serious? What the hell, Warren?
Um, I just coughed while I was drinking. Sorry.
No,
That's the most.
coughing while you're drinking is one thing, but pouring the glass of wine on it is
Oh,
another
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Well, that was because I was just a moron. Don't worry about
Well, you know, I'm
it.
almost through this 1.5 liter bottle of
No,
wine, so.
no, I think Irish can testify to the fact that Warren's a moron. So don't worry, it's all
I
right.
think that's rude to
Um,
just assume what I would say about you in public.
oh
You know that I wouldn't tell people that out loud.
no, just privately, just privately.
Just, I would only say that to you in private circumstances. So, I'm,
You know, sorry about that. Oh God, that's so. Oh, that's the thing. I was like, oh,
stop self-deprecating, Jesus.
we've got to
Ooh, I'm
this.
impressed. I remembered that word.
I swear we've got to this stage of lockdown where we don't even live in normal worlds anymore. It's like
That's
we
what I'm
we,
saying.
we
Yeah.
live in these worlds where we just like for instance, the
Oh
government
my
just
God.
came out in Australia and said, we were going to give you all these free liberties on 1st of July, and guess what? We're going to take them all back.
Yeah, well,
Um,
the same shit's happening here because they tried to hide the numbers and they opened everything back up. And now we've had the highest numbers in Florida that we've had ever and the most deaths. And they're still like talking about like Universal is open and SeaWorld is open. And, you know, it's
well, Australia got
bunch of
25 more.
fucking idiot people.
Well, Australia got 25 more cases in the last 2 weeks.
25. We've
Um,
had like over
and
2,000 cases in Florida alone in the last
okay,
like day.
all right, we had 25 cases in 2 weeks and zero deaths. However, the 25 cases was enough to make the government go into lockdown again.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
now,
they just told us in our county we all have to wear masks again when we went out, which I was already doing because I'm not a fucking
uh,
moron.
well,
But
I
it's
have to.
amazing to me
This is where
how people
actually
aren't.
Irish and I disagree a little bit about masks, but however, I should say in America, should you wear a mask? Fuck yes, wear a fucking
Yeah,
mask.
because we're surrounded by people with
Yes.
terrible
Okay.
things.
Yes. In Australia, should you wear a mask? So in Australia, should you wear a mask? No, fuck no, don't. If you're in America, yes, fuck yes. All right. That's all I'm trying to say.
Especially because when I go out now in public, I put the mask on and I only have to do like the top half of my face and makeup.
We. That's interesting. But the
It's
thing
like
is
a
that,
huge
yeah,
time saver.
but the thing is with the mask, this is the problem the Australian government had. See, you're smart, okay? You're a smart person, right? So you
Uh-huh.
understand how a mask has to be worn. The problem the Australian government has is that they say the Australian general population is
Over the
too
mouth.
dumb to get how to wear it, right? And so they say don't wear it because wearing a bandana is not a mask, right?
Well, it can be as
Well,
long as it's tucked in the right way
well,
for
yeah,
people
but
who don't have anything else. It's cloth, and as long as it's
yeah,
multi-layer,
it
it will help.
is. However, the problem is it also is an absorbent
We have to
to
wash it.
right. Yeah, but it's also an absorbent to when spittle hits it. So the
Yes.
problem is if you walk into what we refer to as spittle, I'm sorry,
It
right?
was better than the vomit you kept talking
Well,
about
okay.
last
Well, I was just saying
time.
when you walk into vomit, right?
No.
So,
No.
um,
No.
so okay, all right. So when you walk
It
into
was
it,
my fault.
the
I'm a
you
bad
walk
influence.
into
I'm
it.
sorry.
The problem is it absorbs into your bandana and then you breathe it in.
Okay.
And this is the problem. So the thing is that a
Well,
bandana works in some
okay.
situations. It doesn't
Here,
work in
I don't.
others.
Well, I want to say to you that I don't know what your health department or whatever you guys call it over there is recommending, but for us personally, the mask isn't so much about not getting COVID yourself from someone else. It's about not passing it to other people.
That's a
Okay.
different
So the thing
question.
is, yes. So the thing
Hmm.
is if you actually, a lot of people are asymptomatic. They don't even know they have the virus, they're a carrier of it and can be spreading it to people. So you put the mask on for other people, not just yourself. You have to be selfless. You have to care about the other people in your life and strangers and babies who haven't had, a chance to get vaccines or their shots and their immune system is down, or people with cancer that can't wear a mask literally because they can't breathe when they go out in public. So it's more about caring about the health and well-being of others, and hoping that they care about the health and well-being of you and people that you know that they don't even know that they could be passing it to and they don't know. So when I see people now that aren't wearing them, what I think is you're very self-centered and you don't give a shit about anybody else that might be affected by what you're doing, because you don't want to be uncomfortable. Or we have a lot of people here who are wearing the masks, but they pull it down so it's only covering their mouth, but their nose is still exposed.
Okay, but as
So
soon
what
as
good
you
does that
touch
do?
as soon as you touch the mask, as soon as you touch it,
Well,
okay,
again, you're not
okay,
supposed to touch your
no,
face
this is
or your
this.
mask, and you
Okay,
have to wash your hands.
okay. Can I just have to explain this to people who are confused about this mask fucking thing? Okay, sanitize your hands. Take the sanitized mask, put it then on your face. You never then touch the mask
The outside of the mask area.
unless you sanitize your hands. If you
Yes.
then do that, you can then touch the mask, take the mask, and take it off in a sanitized environment.
Yeah.
Now, this
Well,
idea where you drive around, where you walk around the shopping center with your mask on and you hop in your car and you pull your mask down. No, it doesn't work that way. You can't do that shit, right?
well, we have a lot of issue here in our country about making people do things they don't feel like they should be doing. Honestly, there's the people that are crying, tyranny for having
Because
to
they
to
can't
wear
get
a
a
mask
haircut.
for 10 minutes, yeah, in Walmart or something, got to wear a
Yeah,
mask. They
it's
think
like
tyranny, but
I
these same people are literally like expecting and hoping and encouraging the U.S. government to actually kill protesters in the
yeah.
street.
Okay,
You
yes, like
know,
I'm sitting back. I got my AR-15 and I
uh,
got 200 cases of baked beans. Sorry about my accent; it's really bad. But
it
I'm
is
gonna.
bad.
Is it bad? All right, very bad. All right. Sorry, but I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna protest the COVID-19. Is that really bad? So, is that
They
really
just don't
bad?
like. No, it's pretty bad, man.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, sorry.
I'm, and we've discussed my problem with involuntary, spontaneous phonetic accommodation. So
sorry.
you know that I'm already having a problem
I,
not picking
I,
up your
I,
accent
I
and your
can't.
dialect. So behave.
I can't.
Don't make me be
I
ridiculous
just,
about Australian accents.
I just try. I can't help it. That's on me.
Some people just don't do dialects, man.
So when I was born, my mother was there. She said, "Here comes an idiot. Don't worry, just go for it."
You are such a fucking liar.
Oh, no, it's not. So my mother said to the doctor. She said, "Here's another fucking idiot. Deal with him." Right? I mean,
God, I don't believe you for 1 second.
one of the
You just
world's
want me to feel sorry for you now that I've been chastised.
no.
All right, we have to get off it.
We have to finish up. So anyway,
Yes.
so
I don't have any more.
we finally produced another edition of the Saints Martini. I hope you enjoyed it. And as we said, it is basically cocktails with conversation. Don't expect anything more or less than that.
Yeah,
Now,
it's honestly like sitting around in a room with your friends having drinks and talking.
That's exactly right.
Because I would have been this stupid had you actually been physically in the room with me. So I just want you to know that. I want everyone to know that.
All right. So, is there anything you want to shout out? Apart from
like one thing I want to shout out.
Warren's a fuckwit. Warren's a fuckwit.
You need to stop it. I told you that's not going to get me to compliment you again. Okay, cut it out.
All right.
Okay. Bad attention is not the same thing as good attention, Warren.
Oh, okay. All right. Naughty boy. Slap.
I actually do. Okay. Settle down. Okay. So I do want to give a shout out to something that was just honored yesterday, it was actually yesterday technically, but it'll probably be tomorrow by the time you get this up. So Juneteenth in America, it is a recognition of the day when the actual Emancipation Proclamation made it down to the final slaves in Confederate territories in America. And it was in December of 1865, I think, and I can't remember exactly how many months. I think it was about 6 months after it had been, and all the slaves had been freed in the upper states. It wasn't until December, I think 21st of that year, that they had, or maybe it was June. See, I'm messing it up because I've had a lot. But it was actually the anniversary of celebrating when actually all the slaves found out they were free. And it's kind of a big deal here. And it should be a bigger deal. It should be a national holiday. And we should.
It's not, actually.
Well, it is in some places where it started in Texas, actually, because that's where it happened. In more recent times, it's traveled. A lot of people don't actually know what it's about, and they have to go look it up. And as you can plainly tell, I can't remember exactly the dates. But I do know that it was a huge moment for our country. And honestly, I also just want to give a shout out to those. That's stupid. I don't want to cry. Okay, it's stupid because I really did.
No. It's just go for it. Just go for it. It's all right.
I told you I don't cry that often. Sometimes shit chokes me up. I actually just wanted to give a shout out to those who chose the sea instead of coming here as slaves. So,
there is. It's
sorry about that.
No. You have nothing to be sorry about, and I don't have anything else to add to that because I have no right or no place to. So I think
I don't really either. I just wanted to give up.
No, and I just think we should just leave it at that. And I think that's a beautiful way to say goodbye, to be honest. And so why don't we just do that? I think.
Okay.
So no. Well,
I upset myself.
No. It's.
I get very worked up about.
No. But to be honest with you, no. Let's just leave it at that. I think I couldn't have said it better myself. So, I am the Saint. You are the
the halo with horns.
And And I think this is podcast 5. I didn't even know. I don't know.
I don't know.
Too many cocktails.
It's going to be on the website. It'll be up when you
It'll
get
be
this
up.
up.
It'll be up.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, thanks for listening.
TheSaintsMartini.com.
Yes, and we will be back next week with another podcast of cocktails and conversations. Of just, I don't know.
I'm not going to cry next time.
It's all right.
I can't
Do
promise
not worry.
that.
You have nothing to be embarrassed about. You are amazing. So we will be back next week with, I don't know, just whatever the fuck we want to talk about, to be honest. So so we will be back. So cheers, guys.
Cheers.
We'll be back next week.
Sláinte.